Julianne Hale stood on the edge of the 18-story roof, the autumn wind teasing the ends of her hair. Tears welled in her long, deep-set fox-like eyes, one tracing a path over the heart-shaped mole just beneath her left eye. Her gaze was filled with a profound exhaustion, as if she had lost all hope in the world, an exhaustion laced with disgust and hatred. She hated this world. She hated that her fate was so tragic that she was always the loser. Julianne pressed her thin, ruby-red lips together, her perfectly sculpted nose twitching slightly. Then, without a shred of hesitation, she leaped. Boom! In the distance, fireworks bloomed against the night sky. No one would notice her death. On this brilliant, explosive autumn night, the pitiful and hateful villainess ended her life. The end. Leo Miller's fingers flew across the keyboard as he typed out the final chapter of his novel, the scene where the villainess jumps to her death. After adding the words, "the end," to the chapter, he uploaded the file to his author dashboard. Phew! Once the chapter was published, Leo stood up and stretched, letting out a long sigh of relief. Leo Miller, pen name, Orion's Quill. He was a small-town kid who'd managed to get into a big-name university. After graduating from USC with a degree in English Lit, he'd interned at a bookstore for 6 months doing grunt work, then landed a job at a major tech company. The relentless grind culture burned him out until his soul ached, and he quit. Hearing that you could make a living writing web novels, he created an author account and dived in. These days, the male-oriented fiction market was a bloodbath, a cutthroat world of gimmicks and trends he couldn't keep up with. With no connections and not enough raw talent, he'd written for half a year without earning a dime. So, he'd switched to the female-oriented market, churning out billionaire CEO romances. Turns out, nobody was making money off those anymore, either. He'd been living on instant ramen for a week, so broke that writing for the love of it was a luxury he could no longer afford. Rent was due, and if he didn't make some cash soon, he'd be sleeping on the street. Writing was off the table. It was a surefire way to starve. After hastily wrapping up his latest failed novel on the platform, Leo pulled out his phone. The screen shattered, but he couldn't afford to fix it, and started scrolling through job postings for warehouse work in the SoCal area. He had some conscience, at least. Even on the brink of homelessness, he'd felt compelled to finish the story before resigning himself to a life of packing boxes. A shame, really. No one was ever going to read this train wreck of a book. BZZT, crackle, BZZT. A sharp, electric crackle pulled Leo from his job search. He looked up. The screen of his old laptop, the one he used for writing, was now a solid, terrifying blue. Black smoke curled up from the keyboard. Leo screamed, "Oh, come on, my baby. I just finished paying it off." He scrambled frantically to yank the power cord from a wall. In that instant, the room erupted in a blinding flash of light. Leo Miller lost consciousness. "I hate it. I hate this world. Why is my life so miserable? Why am I always the loser? Why? It's not fair. Not fair." In his dream, Leo heard a woman's hysterical shrieking. The crazed shouts felt both familiar and alien. When he opened his eyes again, he was lying on a strange beach. The glare of the sun was so blinding he could barely force them open. Is this some kind of performance art? Yeah, 911? There's a naked guy on Crescent Bay Beach. No, I'm not kidding. Zoe, you're not going to believe this, but I'm looking at a totally naked dude on the sand. Crescent Bay Beach? Leo's mind reeled. That was the place from his novel. The spot where the main characters confess their love. He slowly sat up, the sound of the chattering crowd a dull roar in his ears. He looked around, bewildered by the strange looks everyone was giving him. What were they staring at? Wasn't he just at home? How'd he end up on a beach? He rubbed his throbbing temples, his thoughts a jumbled mess. Just then, 2 police officers walked up to him. "Sir, public indecency. You need to come with us." "What? I'm not. Holy crap." Leo looked down and nearly had a heart attack. Mercifully, one of the officers draped a jacket around his waist, preserving a last shred of his dignity. Sitting in the back of the police cruiser, Leo stared out the window at the unfamiliar scenery. His expression grew heavier, his brow furrowing deeper. He leaned forward cautiously. "Hey man, sorry to ask, but what part of Southern California is this?" The cop looked at him like he had 2 heads. "SoCal? What are you talking about? This is Ethelberg City." "Ethelberg City? What?" Leo cried out. He knew that name all too well. It was the fictional metropolis he'd invented for his billionaire romance novel. How could a place from his book exist in the real world? As Leo's mind spun, the cruiser pulled up to a police station. He was escorted into a small, private interrogation room. A moment later, a young man in a police uniform entered and locked the door behind him. The young man smiled. "Hello, Leo Miller. Great author. My name is Logan, and I'm the continuity officer for this story world. What did you just call me? Great author. That's right. Great author, Logan repeated. A wave of pure, unadulterated pleasure washed over Leo. His lips curled into a grin he couldn't suppress. In 2.5 years of writing, this was the first time anyone had ever called him a great author. It felt incredible. Leo tried to stifle his laugh, but his smile only widened. You know me. Your smile is kind of creepy, Logan said, looking a little unnerved. Not only do I know you, I also know you wrote a novel called The Sterling Heir's Sheltered Heart. Now, I'm about to tell you something, so try not to freak out. A few moments later, a horrified shriek echoed from the interrogation room. What? You're telling me I can't go back unless I save the villainess? Ahem. Just calm down, Logan said, trying to placate him. The main problem is that the villainess you wrote has accumulated too much resentment. If you don't resolve it, you'll be trapped in this world forever. Leo was incredulous. But I killed her off. What kind of resentment could she possibly have? Logan deadpanned. That's precisely why. She has so much resentment because you killed her off. He had a point. Leo couldn't argue with that logic. His face fell. So, where are we in the story right now? There is no story yet. Today is the first day of freshman year at the Ethelberg Royal Academy. Everything begins today. As Logan spoke, a set of clothes and a wallet materialized in his hands. Your new identity is the son of the chairman of the board of Ethelberg Royal Academy. Get dressed and go register. Leo was confused. The Royal Academy was definitely a place I made up for my hero and heroine. But the school had a chairman of the board? That's news to me. Logan explained, just because you didn't mention it doesn't mean it doesn't exist in this world. It just wasn't relevant to the main plot, so it never came up. When an author creates a book, the people and things within it take on a life of their own. Everything you don't see still develops its own logic and rules. How else could the world function? Fair enough. Logan's words made a weird kind of sense. He'd already been transported into his own novel. What was one more unbelievable thing? Besides being the chairman's son, did that really sound so bad? Wait a second. Whose son did you say I am? The son of the chairman of the Royal Academy? Does that mean I'm loaded? Yes. While you only mentioned the university in passing, you did establish that it's a cradle for the world's top business tycoons. Logically speaking, the chairman would have to be an uber-wealthy individual. So I can basically do whatever I want at the university? Logically speaking, yes, Logan confirmed. A dangerous glint appeared in Leo's eyes. He threw his hands in the air. Then why the hell would I save some villainess? If I could be a rich guy in this world who wants to go back to reality, I'm going to live it up. With that, Leo threw on the clothes in record time and burst out of the interrogation room. Hey, wait. Hold on a second. If you forcibly stay in the story world, Logan's words were lost in the wind. Leo was already gone. Leo Miller had never imagined he would one day be transported into a novel he'd written himself. The plot of The Sterling Heir's Sheltered Heart, his failed billionaire romance, was painfully simple. In one sentence, the sweet, daily life of a domineering CEO and a wealthy heiress. To be even simpler, a story full of tropey, melodramatic cliches. The whole Mary Sue thing was a decade out of style. The fact that he'd used it as his premise doomed the book from the start. It deserved to fail. Just as the title suggested, the main characters' names were equally over the top. The male lead was Damien Sterling. The female lead was Serafina Rose. Don't ask why their names sounded like they belonged on a yacht. It was to jack up the perceived prestige. In this day and age, even a slightly off-putting protagonist name was enough to get you flamed by readers, a lesson Leo knew all too well. And since it was a cliched romance, it naturally needed a plot device of a supporting character. The villainess's name was Julianne Hale. Yes, the very same girl Leo had just written jumping off a building in his finale. As a pure plot device, Julianne Hale had only one purpose in the book, to move the story forward. When a hero got sick, she would show up before the heroine to take care of him, causing a misunderstanding. When the hero lost something, she would frame the heroine, making the hero despise her. When the hero and heroine were about to get engaged, she'd hire someone to run the heroine over, giving her amnesia. In short, whenever the plot stalled, just throw Julianne at it. The sheer lack of logic and the awkwardness of these setups had guaranteed Leo a permanent spot on the road to failure. Achoo! On his way to the Royal Academy, Leo let out a sudden sneeze. He rubbed his nose and muttered, "Who's talking trash about me behind my back?" He pulled the ID card out of his new wallet and examined it. It looked almost identical to his real-life driver's license. The photo was the same, the ID number was the same, and the birthday, September 17th, was the same. The only difference was the address. His current address was Elysian Estates, Villa 1, Ethelberg City. Leo grinned, a thrill running through him. Wasn't this the whole reason he'd started writing? To make money? If he couldn't be a rich guy in the real world, he might as well be one in his own book. Along with the wallet, Logan had also given him a phone. It functioned just like a real phone, except his contacts list was now filled with characters from his book instead of people from his life. And then there was the bank account balance. A long, cold string of numbers. Let's see. Thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s. Holy crap, that's buy a car money. That's buy a house money. That's buy your own private island money. Sweet Jesus. Awesome. This is so freaking awesome. I'd rather die in my own book than go back, Leo said, his voice dripping with shameless glee. He opened the door of the taxi and stepped out. That'll be $30, the driver said. Leo's old habits died hard. What, $30 for a few miles? That's more of a rip-off than the cabs in SoCal. The driver muttered under his breath, broke ass. If you don't have the money, don't take a cab. Who said I don't have money? The driver's comment snapped Leo back to his new reality. He opened his wallet, pulled out 2 crisp $100 bills, and tossed them onto the passenger seat. The rest is a tip. Keep the change. The driver's eyes widened at the sight of the 2 bills. His entire demeanor changed in a flash. Oh, yes, sir. Thank you, boss. You're so generous, boss. You're the most handsome man I've ever seen. Leo raised an eyebrow. That's not what you were saying a second ago. I was blind, sir. A fool. Look at this stupid mouth of mine. The driver lightly slapped himself twice on the cheek, then offered a fawning smile. Please don't be angry, boss. You think I have time to be angry with you? Right. You're a big man, boss. Don't lower yourself to my level. A small smile played on Leo's lips. As the driver's apologies faded behind him, he turned and walked toward Ethelberg Royal Academy. He hadn't dedicated a lot of ink to describing the school in his novel, but to highlight the hero's high status, he'd established it as a top-tier international business academy. Now, standing before the main gate, Leo was stunned. It was as grand and majestic as the Arc de Triomphe, its stone pillars intricately carved, the archway above adorned with elaborate designs. He was a little dazed. Was this really the school for my book? It's even more luxurious than I imagined. As he stood there, a thought struck him, and his eyes lit up. I'm the chairman's son, he whispered to himself. Doesn't that mean this whole magnificent school is basically mine? The thought made him even more audacious. Adopting a Conor McGregor-esque billionaire strut, he swaggered toward the entrance. A security guard at the gate snapped to attention and saluted him. Good morning, young master. Leo grunted, his chin held high as he continued forward. But because he wasn't looking where he was going, his foot caught on something and he went down. Who the hell isn't watching where they're going? Leo, having landed face first, was about to explode when a gentle female voice reached his ears. I'm so sorry my luggage tripped you. Are you okay? Should I take you to the infirmary? A pair of hands helped him to his feet. He was about to brush it off when he turned his head and saw her, the girl who was helping him. He saw the heart-shaped mole just beneath her left eye. Leo's pupils constricted. The name escaped his lips before he could stop it. Julianne Hale. HM? You know me? The girl asked, turning to face him. A pair of expressive, fox-like eyes, deep and enchanting. A unique, heart-shaped mole beneath her left eye. Soft pink lips, a delicate nose, and a flawless complexion without a trace of makeup. A faint scent of white camellia seemed to cling to her. This was how Leo had first described Julianne Hale in his novel. Seeing her in person, he was completely stunned. The moment their eyes met, it was as if his very soul was being drawn into hers. It was only then that Leo realized the girl's allure. Her sensuality couldn't be captured by flat, simple words. You had to see it for yourself to understand the innate charm that radiated from Julianne, a captivating quality that was less about textbook beauty and more about an unforgettable, magnetic pull. It was a beauty that seemed to have stepped out of an ancient folktale, the kind belonging to a mythical siren capable of bewitching mortals. Mysterious, seductive, and soul-stealing. A single glance was enough to ensnare a man's heart and mind, leaving him hopelessly entranced. Beauty, he now understood, was truly a feeling. A thought popped into Leo's head. No wonder Damon fell for her tricks every single time in the book. Hell, if I were the protagonist, I'd probably be fooled by this femme fatale, too. Seeing Leo's dazed expression, Julianne frowned slightly. Her gentle voice sounded again. I don't think we've met. How do you know my name? Leo snapped back to reality. He scrambled for an excuse. I'm a senior on the welcoming committee. I saw your file in the new student registration yesterday. You have a very unique look. I remembered you right away. The new student files? Julianne's long, beautiful eyes narrowed. She looked him up and down, instantly seeing through his lie. I'm a work-study student. My photo wouldn't be in the school's database. And even if it was, there are over 3,000 new freshmen at the Royal Academy this year. How is it that you just happen to remember my face and my name, senior? Or, do you have some other motive? TCH. Hearing her words, Leo cursed silently. He should have remembered. The villainess he'd written was incredibly sharp, no damsel in distress. Of course she wouldn't fall for such a pathetic excuse. Deciding to abandon reason for brute force, Leo quickly changed the subject. Never mind how I know your name. You just tripped me. We need to settle that first. Julianne frowned. I already apologized. Do you still need to go to the infirmary to get checked out? Leo shook his head. No infirmary. But you have to promise me one thing. What is it? Julianne grew wary, taking an unconscious step back. From the moment this stranger had called out her name and stared at her face, she felt a strange, unsettling vibe from him. It made her wonder if he was some kind of creepy stalker. Leo stared directly into her eyes and said, enunciating each word, you are not to get close to Damon Sterling, and you are not to hurt Serafina Rose. If you run into any trouble at school, you can come to me. I'll help you. Remember my name. It's Leo Miller. Damon Sterling? Serafina Rose. Julianne looked at his serious expression, her own face a mask of confusion. What are you talking about? I don't know either of those people. It's fine. Just keep what I said in mind, Leo said with a slight smile. Remember, my name is Leo Miller. At the Royal Academy, if you use my name, no one will bully you. You're absolutely bizarre. Hearing his nonsensical rambling, Julianne decided he had to be a psycho. She grabbed her luggage and practically fled. Watching her retreating figure, Leo couldn't help but sigh. She doesn't know the hero or heroine yet. That means the villainess hasn't turned evil. There's still time. Wait, wasn't I here to be a rich kid? Why am I already thinking about saving the villainess? No, being a rich kid is way more important. At the magnificent school gate, the slim girl hurried away with her suitcase, her figure shrinking in the sunlight, leaving behind a poignant silhouette that seemed to hint at countless stories and complex emotions. And at that moment, the story officially began. Vroom! A flashy red LaFerrari roared onto the campus like a wild beast, speeding all the way to the freshman registration area. The car stopped right in the middle of the road, and its dramatic butterfly doors swung open. A handsome, long-legged man, at least 6'2", emerged unhurriedly. Damon Sterling, the sole heir to the top-tier Sterling family of Ethelberg City, the future domineering CEO of the novel. Tall, with a chiseled 8-pack, and handsome enough to put movie stars to shame. A single glance from him could make thousands of girls swoon. Of course, no matter how handsome he is, he could never be as handsome as the readers of this book, right? Oh, Damon Sterling. It's Damon Sterling. Oh my God, I'm seeing him in person. A real-life Damon Sterling. He's so hot, I'm gonna die. I can't. He's so handsome, I think I'm gonna faint. I can't breathe. Somebody help me. Just as Leo had written, wherever Damon Sterling went, a crowd of love-struck girls would go crazy for him. Damon opened his mouth, a cool, dismissive word on his lips. So, NOI. So noisy. Before he could finish, the guy standing in front of him had stolen his line. Damon frowned and tried again. For mere. To think a simple registration requires my personal attention. Again, the guy in front of him had preempted him. Damon frowned and opened his mouth once more. What kind of crap? What kind of crappy school requires me to show up in person? Me, the #1 heir in Ethelberg. Do I really need a degree from this place to prove myself? If it weren't for the old man insisting, I'd be back running the company already. Enough. Damon felt like he was living in the shadow of the man in front of him. Those were his lines. How had some nobody stolen them? Finally, his patience wore thin. His lips tightened, a flicker of anger in his eyes. He was about to speak, but the man in front of him suddenly turned around. Hello, Damon Sterling. Humph. Another one. A smirk played on Damon's lips, a look that was 3 parts condescension, 3 parts disdain, and 4 parts pure, unadulterated ego. If you were trying to get my attention, he said, his voice dripping with arrogance, then congratulations. You've succeeded. Staring at the man before him, who was just as handsome as he was, but spoke like a middle schooler high on anime, Leo was speechless. Just one exchange, and Leo was cringing so hard his skeleton was trying to leave his body. He muttered under his breath, so this is how awkward those alpha billionaire lines sound in real life. Guess you really can't separate art from reality. What are you muttering about? Damon's eyes narrowed, a cold smile on his face. Who are you? Why are you approaching me? What's your objective? You. MMPH. Before Damien could finish his tirade, Leo clamped a hand over his mouth. Save the cringy CEO lines for the heroine, man, Leo said, his face a mask of second-hand embarrassment. I'm really not the one to appreciate them. The fangirls surrounding them erupted. Oh my God, who is that guy? He's as hot as Damien Sterling. He actually dared to touch Damien Sterling's perfect face. He's crossed the line. He's so dead. He might be an inch or two shorter than Damien, but he's still gorgeous. It would be such a shame if he died. Leo's face twitched. He knew they were technically complimenting him, but he was so embarrassed he wanted the ground to swallow him whole. What was wrong with me back then? He screamed internally. How did I write a Mary Sue novel with dialogue this cringy? No wonder my creative writing professor told me never to tell anyone I was an English lit major. You dare touch my face? Damien swatted Leo's hand away. Man, you're playing with fire. Do you have any idea what happens to people who piss me off? I could have your entire family buried. Before meeting him, Leo had actually been a little excited. Damien was, in a way, his own creation. After all, he'd modeled Damien's handsome features and tall frame after his own. What? You didn't know Leo is as ridiculously handsome as his readers. But after just a few sentences, Leo wanted nothing more than to disown his creation. The guy might be tall and handsome like him, but he was like a rebellious teenager going through a severe edgelord phase. Talking to him was just too mortifying. Psycho. Go play by yourself, Leo grumbled, grabbing his registration materials from the table and turning to leave. Damien watched him go, then glanced down at the student file on the desk. Leo Miller. He pulled out his phone and dialed. Leo Miller. I want a complete file on this man. You have 3 minutes. Wow, is that girl a new student too? Oh my God, she's beautiful. Like an angel. She's the living embodiment of the phrase, untouched by worldly affairs. With that aura, she must be the daughter of some major Ethelbert family, right? Leo hadn't gotten far from the registration area when a series of gasps reached his ears. He followed the sound and saw her, a girl in simple clothes, but with an otherworldly beauty, walking toward the registration table. In an instant, Leo knew it was her, Seraphina Rose. Just like the hero who caused a stir wherever he went, the heroine of his book was a universally beloved beauty who was praised by all. If Leo remembered correctly, the first chapter of the Sterling Heirs' Sheltered Heart was about the hero and heroine meeting at freshman registration. After learning about their arranged marriage, the hero refused to meet his unseen fiancée and instead enrolled in the Royal Academy to fulfill a task given to him by his late grandfather. The heroine, also unwilling to marry a stranger, secretly ran away from home and enrolled at the same school under a hidden identity. The rest of the story was painfully cliché. The two meet by chance at registration, instantly dislike each other, and become rivals. Then, through a series of contrived coincidences, they develop feelings for one another. Later, they confess their love, reveal their identities, and decide to defy their families together, only to discover they were engaged to each other all along. That was the plot of the first 2 volumes. According to his own story, Julianne Hale wasn't supposed to show up for another dozen chapters. Her full descent into villainy didn't happen until the 3rd volume, because at that point, Leo had run out of plot and needed her scheming to pad the chapter length and hit his weekly word count goal. Thinking back on it now, Leo wanted to travel back in time and slap himself. Why did you have to pad it out? Look at the mess you're in now. At that moment, Seraphina was walking along, dressed in an unremarkable outfit to hide her identity. But her delicate features and elegant grace still made heads turn, and murmurs followed her everywhere. Seraphina's beauty was a stark contrast to Julianne's natural, seductive charm. Hers was a cool, aloof beauty, like a celestial fairy who had descended to the mortal realm, carrying an ethereal, untouchable grace. Leo even remembered the original lines he'd written to describe her. Her phoenix eyes held an ancient charm, revealing a dignified grace. Her nose was small and straight, as if carved from fine jade. Her lips were like delicate petals from a classical painting. Her oval face framed her perfectly, exuding an air of elegance and a classic, oriental beauty. Seeing her now in person, he could feel the grace and dignity in her every move. But no matter how you describe Seraphina's beauty, she could never be as beautiful as the female readers of this book. Are there even any female readers? The moment he saw Seraphina, Leo abandoned his plan to leave. He wanted to stick around and watch the show. The first meeting between the hero and heroine was bound to be interesting. According to the original plot, Seraphina was supposed to turn a corner and bump right into Damien. Then Damien would unleash his classic alpha male lines, and they would become instant enemies. But things didn't seem to be going according to plan. Because Damien was standing by the entrance on the phone, getting intel on Leo, he wasn't moving. The hero and heroine, who were supposed to have their fateful, antagonistic encounter, simply brushed past each other. Nothing happened. Standing a short distance away, Leo stared, completely dumbfounded. He waited until Serafina finished registering, took her materials, and walked away. The two of them never exchanged a single word. Once she was gone, Damien finally hung up the phone and started his own registration. Damn it, Leo scratched his head. This plot, this isn't right. When a butterfly flaps its wings in extra time, the entire story will be rewritten. Leo Miller's notes. The plot of my book changed because of me. What kind of impact will that have? Leo mused, sitting on a bench near one of the academic buildings, replaying the non-event of the hero and heroine's first meeting. After a few seconds of thought, he gritted his teeth as if making a firm decision. Who cares? He muttered to himself. I'm a rich guy now. I should just enjoy my brand new life. His own happiness came first. As for all that other complicated stuff, not his problem. With that, Leo's mood instantly lifted. He got up, walked to the academy's main gate, and hailed a taxi. Elysian Estates. You got it. Elysian Estates, one of the most exclusive properties in Leo's novel, and one of the few that had nothing to do with the male protagonist. It was located in a prime, exorbitantly expensive district of Ethelberg City. The waters of the upper river converged here, forming a lake shaped like a money basin from ancient folklore. At the heart of the lake was an island. From an aerial view, the entire area resembled a golden toad resting in a treasure bowl, hence the land's original, more mythical name. The soil was fertile and the trees were lush. Even after being developed into a private residential area, much of the natural vegetation had been preserved. The car stopped in front of Villa 1. Leo casually pulled a few bills from his wallet and handed them to the driver, not even bothering to say, keep the change before getting out. He was getting better at playing the part of a rich guy. No, wait. What did he mean playing the part? He was a rich guy now. Villa 1 directly faced the lake. From a distance, Leo could see the grand, opulent building on the central island. That was the Elysian Manor, the place where the hero and heroine attended a masquerade ball in the book, a classic, cheesy romance trope used to break the ice and advance their relationship. Every time he described such large-scale events, he'd included bystanders putting down the heroine and the villainess deliberately ruining her dress. Such tired, 20-year-old cliches were still around today. Ahem, he was getting sidetracked. All that was for later. Leo stuffed his hands in his pockets and walked into the villa's courtyard. Young Master is back. Welcome back, young master. Was your registration today successful, young master? The moment he stepped through the gate, two neat rows of servants on either side bowed and greeted him. Hearing their fawning words, Leo felt a mix of happiness and a strange, indescribable pang of bitterness. He thought back to when he had just graduated from college, struggling alone in a big city. Who cared about him then? Every day, he'd come home from work to a shoebox studio, so small it felt like a coffin, with nowhere to even stand except next to the bed and the toilet. He'd sit on his bed, eating a cheap, microwave delivery meal, before collapsing onto that cold, single mattress, feeling like his life was already over. Well, those hard days were gone. He was a rich guy now. The thought solidified his resolve to stay in this world. I'm never going back to the real world, he vowed silently. To his surprise, the villa was empty except for the servants. He had half expected to meet his parents from this story world, but it was better this way. Having parents around would probably just make him feel awkward. Leo flopped onto the enormous, luxurious sofa in a perfect imitation of a relaxed slouch. The villa's butler approached him and asked softly, "Young Master Miller, would you care for anything to eat or drink right now?" "You have milkshakes?" "Yes, sir." "Bring me two." "Right away." Soon, two beautiful maids emerged, each holding a tall glass with a perfectly made milkshake. "I'll drink one." "Pour the other one down the sink," Leo said, taking one of the glasses and downing it in one go. The maid asked, confused, "Pour it out, sir?" "Yep." Leo nodded. The maid didn't question it further. She immediately went to the sink and poured the second milkshake down the drain. Leo asked her, "Why didn't you ask me why I wanted you to pour it out?" The maid smiled politely. "Young master must have his reasons. It is not my place to ask." "Right." Leo pressed his lips together, looking like he wanted to say more, but in the end he said nothing. He got up and headed for the villa's private elevator. The reason he'd had the second milkshake poured out was because Leo had once, late at night, after finishing a writing session and slurping down instant ramen, made a solemn vow. When I'm rich, I'll order 2 milkshakes. I'll drink one and pour the other one out. This behavior is not endorsed. We do not waste food. Now that his vow was so easily fulfilled, Leo felt an unexpected emptiness in his heart. After spending the afternoon in the villa and experiencing everything it had to offer, Leo suddenly felt a wave of profound boredom. Floating in the 1,000-square-foot swimming pool, sipping on fresh coconut water fed to him by a group of sexy, bikini-clad women, Leo sighed faintly. So, this is the life of the rich? Just as I thought. Terribly boring. The women giggled. Is young master looking for something else to do? They cooed, forming a circle around him in the water. But Leo felt no interest in them. It wasn't that the women weren't beautiful. It was just that an image he couldn't shake kept appearing in his mind. Those beautiful, deep, sexy eyes filled with a hint of mystery. Julianne Hale. We only just met. Why am I thinking about her at a time like this? Leo was startled by his own thoughts. Splash. He shot up out of the pool. A servant by the poolside immediately draped a soft, pure white towel over his shoulders. It smelled faintly of white camellia. White camellia. That scent again. The exact same scent as Julianne's. Leo frowned and said to the servant beside him, I don't like the smell of this towel. Get changed. Then this one, young master. The servant reached to take the towel off his shoulders. This time it's fine, Leo said, cutting her off. He dried his wet hair with the towel as he walked barefoot from the pool through the massive floor-to-ceiling glass doors and back into the villa. After changing his clothes, Leo went to the garage, picked a random sports car, familiarized himself with the controls, and drove out of the villa. He lowered the convertible top, letting the cool lakeside breeze clear his head. Feeling the shield emblem on the steering wheel, a smile spread across his face. A whole new life was just beginning. How could he not be happy? Freshman orientation boot camp. The nightmare of every first-year student. Even in a novel, Leo couldn't escape the fate of being baked under the sun for 14 days. Counting the one at USC, this made him a 2-time veteran. During this boot camp, Serafina Rose was supposed to encounter a series of classic heroine problems, spraining her ankle, losing her uniform, falling behind, and getting chewed out by the instructor. And each time she ran into trouble, the domineering CEO, Damon Sterling, would reluctantly help her out, earning major brownie points in the process. But with a new player in the game, would the plot still follow the script Leo had written? Damon, Serafina, and Julianne were all in Finance Section 1. Leo had been assigned to Finance Section 3. But, using his status as the son of the Academy's chairman, he'd managed to get himself transferred to Section 1 the day before the boot camp started. On the first day of training, Leo ran into Damon again just before assembly. Leo Miller, sole heir to the Miller conglomerate of Ethelberg City, Damon recited, having clearly done his homework. The Miller conglomerate is the largest shareholder of the Royal Academy, controlling 80% of the city's educational resources. Under its umbrella are estates, hotels, factories. He paused, a confident, CEO-style smirk on his face. Frankly, your background is impressive. But compared to the Sterling family, it's still lacking. Man, I'm telling you, don't get any funny ideas about me, or I'll crush the Miller family in a heartbeat. As soon as Damon finished his alpha male monologue, the familiar chorus of fawning onlookers began. Wow, Damon is so cool. See, domineering. Only the Sterling family has the guts to say something like that in Ethelberg. Leo stared at Damon, his face a mask of exasperation. Dude, I said hi to you once at registration. You really went and did a full background check on my entire family. Damon raised an eyebrow. Oomph. Are you questioning me? Leo gave up. He didn't want to waste another breath on this delusional idiot who only spoke in CEO cliches. It was impossible to have a normal conversation with him. Tweet. Thankfully, the whistle blew for them to fall in, saving Leo from further cringe. Because Leo had transferred into Finance Section 1, the formation, which was supposed to have an even number of students, was now odd. Damon was the one left over at the end of the line. He simply scoffed. As expected, a man like me is destined to walk alone. His comment drew a wave of squeals and cheers from the fangirls. Leo just rolled his eyes, refusing to engage with the psycho. In the ranks, Serafina Rose glanced back at Damon, who was standing at the end of the line, and found herself frowning slightly. She didn't know why, but even though they'd never spoken, she felt a strange pull toward him. Standing beside her, Julianne noticed her expression and asked with concern, "Are you not feeling well?" "No, I'm fine," Serafina said, waving her hand dismissively. The morning session passed without incident, but in the afternoon, something went wrong. Damon, walking at the very back of the formation, stepped on a broken paving stone and twisted his ankle. Seeing this, Leo's mind went blank. I wrote that Serafina was the one who sprained her ankle on a broken paver, he thought, bewildered. This is wrong. Wait, was it because I transferred into this section? Did changing the number of people in the formation alter the plot's trajectory? Crap. If I'd known this would happen, I would have waited until after the boot camp to transfer. The boot camp instructor, a burly man, immediately singled out Leo, who was about the same height as Damon. He pointed at Leo. You, last row on the right. The tall guy. Take him to the infirmary. Leo, who had been lost in thought, was startled when someone nudged him. He looked up at the instructor, confused. The instructor nodded. Yeah, you. Take him to the infirmary. He then muttered under his breath. Weird. Kid's almost 6'3", but he's so fragile a broken paver takes him out. Leo immediately tried to find an excuse. Instructor, I have congenital muscle weakness. I can't carry him. The instructor's jaw dropped. He stared at Leo in disbelief. You're 6'1" and you have muscle weakness? Who are you trying to fool? The other students, who had been focused on Damon, now turned their gazes to Leo. In the front row, Julianne recognized his face, a flicker of suspicion in her eyes. It's him, she thought. The weird guy. Leo continued to press his absurd excuse. Instructor, don't let my height fool you. It's all for show. I really am weak. You have to believe me. Seeing Leo's pathetic attempt to get out of it, the instructor was speechless. He didn't want to argue. He pointed to another tall student next to Leo. The guy next to him. You take the injured student to the infirmary. No. Leo's voice rang out again, interrupting the instructor. The instructor frowned, looking at Leo with a mix of annoyance and amusement. What now? Is the guy next to you weak too? Is every guy in this section weak? No, Leo said, shaking his head. He walked from the back of the line to stand in front of the instructor. Actually, I think we should have a female student take this young man. After all, men and women work better together, right? Leo had no idea what nonsense he was spouting, but he couldn't let the plot derail any further. He had to force it back on track, no matter how clumsy it was. The instructor stared at him, as if he were an idiot. What are you talking about? Seeing that the instructor wasn't getting it, Leo leaned in close and whispered, I'm Leo Miller, the son of the chairman of the Royal Academy. As he spoke, he deftly slipped a thick wad of cash into the instructor's pocket. The instructor froze. He'd heard the chairman's son was in his group, but he didn't know which one it was. And now this kid was suddenly outing himself. The instructor glanced at the expensive watch on Leo's wrist. Deciding it was better to be safe than sorry, he chose to believe him. He nodded, his tone suddenly fawning. Yes, you make a very good point. Since you agree with me, instructor, then... Leo pointed to Serafina, whose fair skin made her stand out in the crowd. Let this young lady accompany the injured student to the infirmary. The instructor felt the thick stack of bills in his pocket and forced a nod. Right. An excellent suggestion. What? Serafina stared at Leo, her eyes full of confusion. She didn't understand why he was saying such strange things, or why the instructor would agree to his ridiculous proposal. Most of all, she couldn't understand why she, of all people, had been chosen. Standing next to her, Julianne had seen the whole exchange, including the moment Leo slipped money to the instructor. Though she didn't know what this weirdo was planning, she was sure that making a petite girl help a big guy to the infirmary was part of some nefarious scheme. The quick-witted girl would not let this creep's plan succeed. There are so many guys here, she declared loudly. Why should a girl have to do this kind of physical work? Seeing Julianne jump in, Leo's eyes went wide with panic. My dear girl, he thought desperately. Why are you making trouble now? You're not supposed to be evil yet. The flustered instructor didn't know how to respond to Julianne's question. He could only turn and look at Leo with a helpless expression. Leo steeled himself and tried again. I just think that men and women work better. Before he could finish, Julianne angrily stepped out of the ranks and pointed a finger at Leo's nose. I saw you bribe the instructor. What are you really up to, you weirdo? Leo quickly grabbed her outstretched hand. Julianne flinched, startled by his touch. Leo didn't care. He leaned in and whispered, stay out of this. Don't ruin my plans. Julianne's beautiful, fox-like eyes glared at him coldly. I knew you were up to no good. I will not let your twisted scheme succeed. TCH, seeing that Julianne was determined to oppose him, Leo decided to go all in. Let me tell you something, Julianne Hale. This school belongs to my family. You defy me, and I'll make sure you can't study here anymore. You believe me? Perhaps from writing too many billionaire novels, Leo found himself blurting out a classic alpha male line. Just because your family owns the school, you think you can do whatever you want. Julianne was completely unafraid of his threat. She stood her ground, radiating righteousness. Do you rich people think money lets you do anything? That it gives you the right to trample on the dignity and lives of ordinary people? Let me tell you. Hey, calm down. Seeing Julianne getting worked up on her behalf, Serafina rushed over to play peacemaker. She reached out and pulled on Julianne's arm. The sudden tug threw Julianne off balance. Ah! Julianne cried out, her own ankle twisting beneath her. Oh! Serafina gasped, her face filled with guilt. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. It's fine. My ankle is sprained. You can help me to the infirmary, Julianne said. She then looked up at Leo, a sly, triumphant glint in her eyes. Okay, without a second thought, Serafina helped Julianne up and started walking toward the infirmary. Hey, wait, no. Leo watched them go, unable to think of a reason to stop them. He turned his gaze back to Damon, who was still sitting on the ground, watching the drama unfold. Damon saw Leo striding toward him and asked nervously, What do you want? I'm taking you to the infirmary. Serafina helped Julianne to the infirmary and pushed open the door. The room was empty. Julianne called out, Hello, is the nurse here? Leo, who had followed closely behind with Damon, said, Don't bother shouting. All the nurses are off today. What? Julianne looked at Leo in disbelief. It's the first day of school, during the boot camp, and all the school nurses are on vacation? Do you hear yourself right now? I know it sounds crazy, but I'm not lying. Leo covered his face, embarrassed. If you don't believe me, go look at the notice on the front desk. Serafina helped Julianne to a cot, then walked over to the desk and read the red notice. It's true. The school nurses are all at a professional development seminar today, and it says we can take whatever medicine we need. It even lists the location of the ointment for sprains and bruises. What? Julianne was stunned. That makes no sense. Even the terminally alpha male Damon voiced a normal person's confusion. Yeah, how would they know we need ointment for sprains? Of course it didn't make sense. Back when he was writing, Leo, in a fit of inspiration, had come up with the idea of all the nurses being away, so the hero could find the ointment and apply it to the heroine's ankle, creating a tender moment. He hadn't thought it was illogical at the time, but now, experiencing it himself, he realized the plot point was full of holes. Leo quickly tried to smooth things over. It's a boot camp. Bumps and bruises are bound to happen. It's perfectly reasonable for the nurses to anticipate we need something for sprains. His explanation seemed to satisfy Damon and Serafina, who both nodded silently. They were surprisingly easy to fool. Then again, in the book, they were always ready to believe the villainess's transparent schemes, leading to a constant cycle of breakups and makeups. Only the highly intelligent Julianne wasn't convinced. That's not reasonable at all, she said, her eyes fixed on Leo's nervous expression. I have a feeling that you planned all of this. Leo shot back. Don't be ridiculous. I was with you guys at the boot camp the whole time. Didn't you just tell me this school belongs to your family? You could arrange something like this easily, Julianne said, resting her chin on her hand, a look of dawning comprehension on her face. There's only one truth. She pointed at Damon, then at Leo. If I'm not mistaken, you and this guy are friends. He has a crush on my friend here, so he faked his injury. Then you used your status to bribe the instructor to have her take your friend to the infirmary. You had already arranged for the nurses to be gone and left that note, all to create an opportunity for them to be alone. If this weren't a fictional world, Julianne's deduction would have been remarkably close to the truth. Whoa, slow down there, Sherlock. Are you trying to solve a case or something, sis? Leo's forehead broke out in a sweat. He truly hadn't expected the villainess from his book to be this intelligent. She was quick-witted and her logic was sharp. A person like that would be incredibly difficult to deal with if she ever turned to the dark side. Julianne pressed her lips together in a faint smile. I knew I was right. You're getting nervous. Fine, you're right. Leo couldn't be bothered to argue with her. As long as he didn't expose the fact that he was a transmigrator, nothing else mattered. Hearing their exchange, Serafina looked at Damon with a startled expression. Damon felt her gaze and met her eyes. Serafina's inner thoughts. This guy likes me? We've never even met. Why would he like me? But why do I get this strange feeling whenever I look at him? Damon's inner thoughts. What are these two talking about? I've never seen her before. How could I like her? And yet, there's something special about this girl. Whenever I see her, I get this strange feeling. Leo saw the two of them staring at each other, and, thinking it was love at first sight, was overjoyed. Around and around we go, he thought, but it looks like I managed to get the plot back on track after all. As if following a script, Leo went to the medicine cabinet, opened the second shelf, and from the third compartment in the middle, he took out 2 bottles of liniment. He shoved one into Serafina's hand. Then he announced, "My friend here fell for you the moment he saw you. Why don't you two go have a nice chat in that room over there? I'll take care of this young lady." Hey, wait. Without giving them a chance to react, Leo pushed both of them into a private room and locked the door from the outside. Perfect. Leo congratulated himself silently. Then he turned to look at Julianne, who was still sitting on the cot. Julianne saw the predatory look in his eyes and crossed her arms in front of her chest. What? What do you want? What do you think I want? Leo held up the remaining bottle of liniment. You sprained your ankle, didn't you? I'm going to help you put some of this on it. As he spoke, he started walking toward her 1 step at a time. Hey, don't come any closer. Julianne panicked. She shot up from the cot and scrambled backward. Your leg isn't sprained, Leo said, a sly grin on his face, as if he'd known all along. You were faking it just now. You liar. You're the liar, Julianne retorted, hiding behind a medical bed and watching him nervously. You strange man. What are you really after? You've been up to no good since the first day of school. Leo scoffed. Give me a break. Who'd be up to no good with you? You think you're the heroine of some novel, universally loved and adored wherever you go. Then why were you staring at me with that dazed look on your face at registration? Julianne's pointed question hit its mark, leaving Leo speechless. Well, Leo stammered, unable to come up with an answer. See, I knew you were up to something. Julianne pressed her lips together in a cold smile. And I bet your friend is no good either. They're in that room alone together. She could be in danger. With that, she started toward the room where he'd locked Damon and Serafina. Don't you go over there. Leo quickly moved to block her path. The more he tried to stop her, the more convinced Julianne was that something was wrong. She dodged around him and ran for the door. Don't go over there. Thump, Leo turned to chase after her, only to hear a sharp cry. He looked down and saw Julianne on the floor, clutching her ankle. This time, she'd really sprained it. Just like the law of running always leads to a sprained ankle in a Mary Sue novel, Julianne had gracefully crumpled to the ground, twisting her foot in the process. Leo stood with his hands on his hips, a gloating look on his face. Told you not to run. See? You sprained it. Stop enjoying this and come help me up. Julianne grimaced, beads of sweat forming on her forehead. It was clear she was in a lot of pain. Weren't you just worried I was a bad guy? Why do you want my help now? Leo said, walking over and extending a hand. Julianne's deep, beautiful eyes shot him a glare. If you weren't the only other person in this room, I wouldn't ask for your help, she said stubbornly. She placed her hand in his. The warmth of his palm was a stark contrast to her own cool skin. Counting the time he'd grabbed her hand on the training field, this was their second physical contact. Leo helped her back to the cot, then held out the bottle of liniment. Are you going to put it on, or should I? I'll do it myself. There was no way Julianne was going to let him touch her ankle. She snatched the bottle from his hand, took off her shoe and sock, and began to gently rub the ointment onto the sore spot. The liniment was a pale yellow oil. She poured some in her palm and carefully applied it to the twisted area. Her leg was pale and slender, which made the redness and swelling at her ankle stand out even more. The spot she just injured was already turning red and puffing up before his eyes. It looked incredibly painful, and the way she bit her lip as she applied the medicine confirmed it. Her arch was beautiful, her skin smooth and white. Her toes were perfectly formed, free of any nail polish. Leo found himself staring for a few extra seconds. For the record, he was definitely not a foot fetishist. As if sensing his gaze, Julianne glanced up at him. What are you staring at my foot for? She asked warily. Leo's face flushed. I wasn't. You want to look at your foot? He denied, then guiltily walked out of the infirmary. Watching his hasty retreat, a cunning smile appeared on Julianne's face. The infirmary's private room had surprisingly good soundproofing. The commotion in the main room hadn't reached the two inside, and their own shouts for help hadn't been heard outside. After trying the door and shouting for help to no avail, Serafina and Damon were left standing awkwardly in the room. Damon sat on the bed, clutching his sprained ankle. Serafina sat in a chair beside the bed. Seeing the sweat on Damon's forehead, she offered him the bottle of liniment Leo had shoved into her hand. You should probably take care of that. Are you telling me what to do? Even in agony, Damon didn't forget his alpha male lines. Serafina waved her hand dismissively. No, I just see that you're in a lot of pain. If you don't treat it, it's going to swell up even more. A faint smile touched Damon's lips. Woman, are you concerned about me? Go on. What's your motive for getting close to me? Seeing his conceited expression, Serafina couldn't help but deliver the line she was supposed to have said in the original plot. First, I have a name. Don't call me woman. It's Serafina Rose. Second, I'm not trying to get close to you, so stop being so full of yourself. The line, meant for their first meeting at registration, had finally been triggered. Serafina Rose? An interesting name, Damon said, his smile widening. I know what you're thinking. You want to use my sprained ankle as an excuse to apply the ointment and get close to me. Serafina's eyes went dark with annoyance. Are you insane? Your friend locked us in here. How is that me trying to get close to you? And for the record, I have no intention of helping you put that on. Damon shook his head. The guy outside is not my friend. What? Serafina frowned. If he's not your friend, then why would he try to help you get close to me? How should I know? Damon shrugged, his deep, handsome eyes holding a look of pure, unadulterated cluelessness. I thought you were the one trying to get close to me. Serafina was speechless. Do you think you're some kind of celebrity? Who would want to get close to you? And why couldn't I be? Damon raised an eyebrow confidently. I'm Damon Sterling, the future head of the Sterling family. In Ethelberg City, when my family speaks, who dares to disagree? The number of women trying to marry into my family is endless. Well, I'm not interested, Serafina said, rolling her eyes. Just hurry up and take care of your injury. It's swelling up like a pig's trotter. Damon looked at her and thought to himself, is this woman concerned about me? A pig's trotter? What an interesting name for it. She really is different from the other girls. According to the original plot, after Serafina sprained her ankle, Damon was supposed to send gifts and supplements to the girls' dorm every day. Serafina's roommates would bring them up to her, and even though they couldn't meet, their feelings would continue to grow. But now, the injured parties were Damon and Julianne. That entire plotline was dead in the water. After all, Leo couldn't exactly order Serafina to deliver get-well gifts to the boys' dorm. Besides, Serafina was still undercover. Buying expensive supplements would blow her cover as a regular girl. On the other hand, thanks to Julianne's injury, Serafina was now taking care of her in the dorm, which meant she also got to skip the boot camp. As for Leo, well, the school was his family's property. If he didn't want to go to boot camp, the instructor wouldn't dare say a word. To Leo's surprise, he and Damon had been assigned to the same two-person suite. In Leo's book, the dorms at the Royal Academy were divided into two types. The first was a two-person suite, available only to students paying hundreds of thousands a year in tuition. Each suite had two private bedrooms, a shared living room, and a bathroom. These were for the rich kids. The other type was a standard four-person room, like any normal college dorm, with bunk beds over desks. These cost a reasonable $1,200 a year in housing fees. If Leo remembered correctly, to facilitate the hero and heroine living together later in the story, he had made the two-person suites co-ed. The standard dorms, however, were separated by gender. Serafina, hiding her identity, was paying standard tuition and was naturally in a four-person room, where she was roommates with Julianne. In the book, Damon had lived alone in a suite. Now, thanks to Leo's arrival, they were roommates. Freed from boot camp, Leo slept in until noon. He walked out into the living room to find Damon sitting bolt upright, holding a meeting on his iPad. Leo ignored him, sprawled out on the sofa, ordered some takeout, and started catching up on his favorite author's web novel. Since this world was a one-to-one copy of his own, the novels here were exactly the same, with the exception that he couldn't find any of his own books. That made sense. If his books existed here, it would create a paradox. Leo finished the latest chapter, and Damon was still in his meeting. Leo's takeout arrived, and Damon started a new meeting. By the time Leo had nearly finished his food, Damon finally closed his iPad. Leo gnawed on a chicken leg and looked at him. Yo, meeting's over? No, Damon said flatly. You eating next to me was distracting. Leo chewed his food. What can your iPad transmit smells now? I'm hungry, Damon said, giving Leo an exasperated look. Want a bite? Leo offered, holding up the other, untouched chicken leg. I'll sacrifice one for you. I don't eat that, Damon said, shaking his head. I have a sensitive stomach. I can't allow such low-quality food to enter my system. I'll get sick. A classic alpha male trope. A delicate stomach. Damon glanced at his $8 million, diamond-encrusted Vacheron Constantine watch. It's about time. The meal for my family's 5-star chef should be arriving soon. Leo's eyes went dark. Whatever, dude. Your loss. He took the other chicken leg and devoured it in one bite, leaving only a clean bone. It was a skill he perfected in high school, compressing his meal times to the absolute minimum to squeeze in every second of study time. Damon stared at the smooth bone, surprised. How do you eat so fast? Faster when I'm not talking to you. Leo picked up his container and shoveled the rest of the food into his mouth with impressive speed. He made it look delicious. Damien's eyes followed his every move, but he resisted. His alpha male persona wouldn't allow him to eat so crudely. Just as Leo was finishing, the meal from Damien's five-star chef arrived. A velvet tablecloth was spread on the table, followed by wine, steak, salad, scented candles, and a full set of cutlery arranged from largest to smallest. Damien tucked a napkin into his collar and began to cut his steak with meticulous slowness. Two servants stood behind him, ready to attend to his every need. Leo watched him eat the tiny portion of food and asked curiously, "You eat like this every day?" "Yes," Damien nodded. Leo couldn't help but retort, "With a schedule like yours and eating so little, it's a wonder you don't have stomach problems." Damien put down his fork and knife. "I've eaten this way since I can remember. I was raised to be an heir, with strict rules for every aspect of my life. How I eat, how I work, everything. I started managing family affairs at 14. My days are filled with endless meetings and work." Damien's words gave Leo pause. He was the one who had created this life for him. In the book, Damien had to eat Western food, wear tailored suits, and maintain a domineering posture whether standing, sitting, or sleeping. He had to be a CEO with an impossibly busy schedule. Weren't these the very constraints Leo had imposed on him? How could he now blame Damien for them? Leo suddenly felt like one of those helicopter parents he'd always despised in the real world. The kind who forced their children down a path they themselves couldn't stand, without ever asking what the child actually wanted. Leo asked Damien, "Do you enjoy living like this? Are you happy?" "Happy?" Damien shook his head. He asked in return, "What is happiness?" "What? You don't know what happiness is?" Leo was stunned. He tried to explain. "It's things that make you feel good. Joyful. Joyful." As Damien heard Leo's words, the image of Serafina Rose floated into his mind. A small smile touched his lips. Leo saw it and gave him a knowing look. "You've fallen for Serafina Rose, haven't you?" Damien immediately tensed up. "Impossible. Absolutely not. How could I possibly fall for a woman I've only seen once? Then why are you so flustered?" "I'm not. You're doomed, man. You've fallen head over heels. I'll say it again. I would never fall for a woman I've only met once." "You haven't fallen for that guy you just met yesterday, have you?" In the girls' dorm, Julianne watched as a distracted Serafina dropped and shattered a glass cup. "What? No, of course not. How could I?" Serafina stammered, frantically waving her hands. "How could I possibly fall for a man I've only met once?" A smile played on Julianne's lips. "What did you two do in that room yesterday?" "Nothing." Serafina shook her head. "We just talked for a bit, and then you opened the door." Julianne pressed on. "What did you talk about?" Serafina thought for a moment. "He told me his name was Damien Sterling, and that he was the young master of the Sterling family." "What?" Julianne suddenly cut her off. "What did you say his name was?" "Damien Sterling." It was as if a crucial memory had been unlocked. Julianne grabbed Serafina's hands. "Serafina, what's your full name?" Serafina frowned, confused. "My full name is Serafina Rose." "What? Serafina Rose? Damien Sterling?" Julianne repeated the two names in her mind. She suddenly remembered the last thing Leo Miller had said to her on the first day of school. "You're not to get close to Damien Sterling, and you are not to hurt Serafina Rose. If you run into any trouble at school, you can come to me. I'll help you. Remember my name. It's Leo Miller." What did he mean, get close to Damien Sterling? And what did he mean by hurt Serafina Rose? How could Leo have known she would meet these two people after school started? The more Julianne thought about it, the more frightened she became. A chill ran down her spine, and the hairs on her arms stood on end. She had a terrible premonition. Leo Miller was a terrifying person. It seemed like he knew things. After a moment, Julianne calmed herself. A strange light flickered in her beautiful, mysterious eyes. "Leo Miller," she thought, "what secrets are you hiding? And why are you so interested in me?" The more mysterious something was, the more it piqued a person's curiosity, especially a clever woman like Julianne Hale. If Leo hadn't been so foolishly impulsive on that first day, perhaps their paths would never have crossed again. But now it was too late. He was entangled in her fate. In a way, he had successfully captured her attention. Serafina asked again, "Jules, what's wrong? Is there a problem?" Julianne snapped back to reality and waved her hand. "It's nothing." "Okay." Serafina nodded and bent down to pick up the broken glass shards with her bare hands. Julianne quickly stopped her. "Whoa, whoa, you can't pick up broken glass with your hands." "Then what should I do?" Serafina looked up at her. After nearly 20 years as a pampered heiress, Serafina had barely ever carried her own cup, let alone dealt with a broken one. Julianne looked at Serafina's innocent, clueless expression with some surprise. "You use a broom and dustpan, of course. Then you throw in the trash." "All right." Serafina nodded. She followed Julianne's instructions, fetching a broom and dustpan from the balcony to clean up the mess, but her movements were clumsy. Lying on her bed with her sprained ankle, Julianne watched her struggle, fighting the urge to get up and do it herself. "Have you never done chores at home?" Julianne asked. Serafina quickly explained, "Oh, my parents just wanted me to focus on my studies. They never let me do this kind of work." "Is that so? Your parents are really good to you," Julianne said. She looked at Serafina's soft, delicate hands, an unconcealed hint of envy in her eyes. Ring, ring. Just then, Julianne's phone rang. "Okay, I got it," she said into the phone before hanging up. She climbed out of bed. Serafina, who had just finished sweeping up the glass, immediately asked, "Jules, where are you going?" "I have to go out for a bit," Julianne said, slipping on her sandals. Serafina saw her limping. "You're going downstairs like that? Let me go with you." "No, it's fine. I can manage on my own." Julianne didn't give Serafina a chance to help her, quickly limping out of the dorm room. Damien's ankle made it impossible for him to go downstairs and print the materials he needed for an afternoon meeting, so he'd asked Leo to do it for him at the convenience store across from the dorms. As Leo stepped out of the store, he saw a commotion across the street in front of the girls' dorm. A man and a young woman were arguing, and a crowd had gathered to watch. That girl was Julianne Hale. Across from her stood a middle-aged man, gesturing wildly and shouting at her. "I told you, I don't have a single penny. Stop harassing me," Julianne said angrily. The man pointed a finger at her. "I don't believe you. Your mother must have secretly given you money. Otherwise, how could you afford to go to a fancy school like this? Hand it over." Julianne's face was cold. "I'm on a full scholarship. It's free, and I don't have any money on me right now." The man waved his arms. "No money? Then what are you doing in school? You should be working. Come on, we're going to withdraw you right now." He reached out to grab her arm. Julianne stumbled back, her eyes red with fury. She screamed, "Even if I worked, I wouldn't give you a cent. Not unless I'm dead. You'll never get a single penny from me. Damn it, you little bastard." The man's face twisted with rage. He raised his hand to strike her. "Just like your mother, a damn bastard." Julianne was terrified. She instinctively squeezed her eyes shut. With her injured leg, she couldn't dodge the blow. As she braced for the slap, she felt a sudden tug. Her body fell backward into a warm embrace. Someone had saved her. Julianne slowly opened her eyes. The first thing she saw was that familiar, yet strange face. Leo Miller. It was him again. "Who are you?" Leo asked, his voice cold as he stared at the middle-aged man, who reeked of alcohol. "You dare cause trouble at the Royal Academy?" "Who am I?" The man's jowls quivered. He pointed at Julianne in Leo's arms. "I'm her father." Hearing this, Leo frowned. The girl in his arms immediately stood up on her own and tugged at his sleeve. "This has nothing to do with you. You should go." "No way," the man shouted, unwilling to let him leave. "You just held my daughter. If you don't give me a few $100 today, I'm calling the cops and reporting you for sexual harassment." Hearing her father's words, Julianne's eyes filled with tears of rage. "Get lost. You're insane. If you keep causing a scene at my school, I'm going to call the police." "Ah, you want money, is that it?" Leo looked at the man and let out a cold laugh. He pulled out his wallet, grabbed a thick stack of bills, and held them out. "Is this enough?" "Hiss." The man's eyes widened at the sight of the cash. His entire demeanor changed. "Enough, enough. Good. It's yours. Don't give it to him." Julianne cried out, trying to stop him. The middle-aged man immediately screamed, "You shut your mouth, you little bastard. You don't get a say in." Slap. Before the man could finish his insult, Leo swung the wad of cash and slapped him across the face. Swish, bills scattered across the ground. The man, ignoring the sting on his cheek, dropped to his knees and scrambled to pick up every last one. He grinned sycophantically. "Thank you, boss. You're so generous. You could do whatever you want with my daughter. You son of a bitch." Leo hadn't been truly angry until now, but hearing words that no human being should ever say, a fire ignited inside him. He lunged forward and kicked the man squarely in the stomach. Julianne's father crumpled to the ground, but he never let go of the cash, clutching it tightly. Even after being kicked, he spat out defiantly, "You dare kick me? Just you wait. I'm calling the cops." Leo didn't hesitate. He kicked the man again, hard, and then again. If the school security hadn't arrived just then and pulled him off, Leo might have kicked him to death. For security guards hauled the man away. Leo turned to the remaining guards and said in a grave voice, "Remember that man's face. From now on, if any of you let him on this campus, you can pack your bags and get out." The guards nodded meekly. "Yes, young master." Julianne stood frozen in place, staring at Leo, her sexy, fox-like eyes filled with a storm of complex emotions. Leo Miller, who in the world are you? Are you okay? Julianne was in a daze when Leo Miller's gentle voice snapped her back to reality. Huh, I'm fine. She shook her head lightly, her eyes, alluring and magnetic, fixed on Leo's as if trying to uncover some hidden secret from their depths. Leo couldn't handle her stare. He felt like she was about to see right through him. He quickly averted his gaze, trying to avoid her eyes. Seeing him flinch, Julianne dropped her intense stare. Why did you help me? Leo managed a small smile. I'm just that kind of guy. No need to thank me. Who's thanking you? Julianne's eyes narrowed. Why did you give that man money? If I didn't, he would have kept harassing you, right? People like him are a black hole. Once they get a taste, they'll just keep coming back for more. As she spoke, a flicker of sadness crossed her face. Don't worry, Leo said. He's never getting into the Royal Academy again. Ugh. Julianne sighed. It's not like I can stay on campus my whole life, can I? Leo's expression suddenly turned serious. He spoke slowly, deliberately. As long as I, Leo Miller, am in Ethelberg City, no one here will ever bully you. You. Julianne grew nervous again. She instinctively took a step back, but then she saw the sincerity in his eyes and stopped. Her retreat cut short. Leo started to panic. He knew Julianne was sharp. A simple lie wouldn't fool her. She was already suspicious of him, and one wrong word could blow his cover. You what? Julianne's brow furrowed as she pressed him. From the day I set foot in this school, you've been overly concerned about me. Are you telling me you don't have some kind of ulterior motive? What motive could I possibly have? Leo shoved his hands into his pockets, trying to look casual. He channeled his best Damon Sterling impression. I'm the heir to the Miller conglomerate. What could I possibly want from a work-study student? I'm leaving. Wait. Leo, terrified the clever girl would see through his act, had tried to make a quick escape. But as he turned, Julianne grabbed his sleeve. What is it now? Leo asked, his voice a little tight. Julianne bit her lip and said softly, the money you gave my dad. I'll find a way to pay you back. And for today. Thank you. It was the first time she had shown such a shy, girlish vulnerability in front of him. Leo let out a breath of relief. Don't worry about it. The money's not important. I'm not exactly hurting for cash. No, Julianne said, shaking her head firmly. I will absolutely pay you back. We'll see. Leo pulled his sleeve from her grasp and practically fled from the front of the women's dorm. It was only a few $1,000s. From the moment he'd handed it over, he'd never intended for her to return it. After all, to him now, money was just a meaningless string of numbers, no more valuable than scrap paper. The girl watched silently as the boy's figure receded in the sunlight, his silhouette seeming to glow with a golden aura, radiating a mysterious air. As long as I, Leo Miller, am in Ethelberg City, no one here will ever bully you. Leo's words echoed in her mind. For a moment, she was lost in a daze, and before she knew it, an enchanting smile spread across her lips. She turned and limped back toward her dorm. Novelists always seem to love creating these ridiculously contrived scenarios for their main characters to meet. But in reality, first encounters are often even more ridiculous and contrived than fiction. Leo Miller's notes. What's the rush? See a ghost or something? Damon Sterling asked, watching Leo hurry back into their dorm suite. I was printing these stupid files for you and almost got captured by one, Leo shot back, tossing a stack of documents onto the table. A vixen at that. A vixen. Damon chuckled. You're an interesting guy. Whatever. Leo grabbed a Coke from the living room fridge and plopped down on the sofa across from Damon. Damon pulled a checkbook from his pocket and slid a single check across the table. Here. Leo picked up the check. It was signed and stamped, but the amount was blank. Why are you giving me a blank check? For your trouble. A little something for my errand boy, Damon said, gesturing to the check. Fill in whatever amount you want. You can cash it at any Sterling bank branch. Damn, that's generous. Leo immediately grabbed a pen, ready to write in a number, but then he remembered. He was supposed to be a rich kid now, too. He pushed the check back to Damon. Don't look down on me. I'm not hurting for your pocket change. As if a switch had been flipped, Damon recited his line like a pre-programmed NPC. You're the first man to ever refuse my check. You've successfully... Shut up. Leo cut him off. We're friends, man. Don't start with that. His script interrupted. Damon looked momentarily lost. Why do you always say stuff like that? Leo asked. I don't know. Damon scratched his head, a look of pure, unadulterated confusion in his eyes. It just comes out, right? My fault, Leo muttered, covering his face in self-deprecation. After a moment, Leo asked, Hey, Sterling, Do you just hand out checks to people all the time? Sometimes it's cash. You want some? Damon asked, blankly pulling out his wallet. No, Leo yelled, his patience wearing thin. Damon thought for a second. Why don't you call me Mr. Sterling? Why would I call you Mr. Sterling? Leo shot back. Damon frowned, pondering this. Because everyone else does. Well, I like to be different, Leo declared. From now on, I'm calling you Sterling. Damon nodded. Okay, then I'll call you Leo. Get lost, Leo said immediately. My family may not be as rich as yours, but I'm still a trust fund kid. The least you can do is call me Miller. Show some respect. Miller. Damon considered it. All right, Miller it is. You know, you're the first person my age I've ever addressed with that kind of title. Looking at Damon, who radiated an indescribable, almost childlike simplicity, Leo had a sudden realization. When he wrote the book, he'd been so focused on making the male lead a badass that the real Damon Sterling, when faced with anything outside his programmed billionaire romance hero behavior, acted like a child. He was too innocent, and sometimes he was just a straight-up doofus. In the girls' dorm, Julianne? Oh, you've been a million miles away, Serafina Rose said, walking over to Julianne with a concerned look. You rushed downstairs earlier, and you've been distracted ever since you came back. Did something happen? No, it's nothing. Julianne forced a smile. Serafina took her hand. If you're ever in trouble, you have to tell me. I'll do everything I can to help you. In Leo's book, Serafina was gentle, considerate, and perceptive. Even with Julianne, whom she had just met, she was unconditionally supportive. This was a key reason why, in the original plot, Julianne was able to so easily manipulate her and drive a wedge between her and Damon. Julianne squeezed Serafina's hand and smiled. Really, it's nothing. I'm fine. Thank you, Sarah. Of course. We're friends, Serafina said with a soft, gentle smile. Her words touched Julianne. To be honest, Julianne said, I've never really had any friends. I feel so lucky to have met someone as kind as you right at the start of the semester. Actually, I don't have many friends either, Serafina said after a moment's thought. It's like, people are afraid to get close to me. Why? Julianne asked, confused. Sarah, you're so kind. Why would anyone be afraid of you? Maybe it's because... Serafina almost said it was because of her heiress status, but that would expose the secret she was trying to hide. She caught herself just in time. Seeing her trail off, Julianne prompted. Because of what? Serafina stammered. Because, I don't know, maybe I'm just not very likable. No, don't say that, Julianne said, shaking her head. A perfect girl like you is definitely more likable than I am. Serafina shook her head in return. But you're beautiful and kind too, Jules. Why wouldn't you have any friends? I don't know. The question made Julianne drift back in her own past. A memory, something unpleasant, made her flinch. She snapped back to the present. I don't know why no one wants to be my friend. Maybe I'm the unlikable one. I'll be your friend, Serafina said with a warm smile. Okay. In that moment, the two girls, each with a secret weighing on her heart, became friends. Julianne suddenly remembered Leo's warning from the first day of school. Don't you dare hurt Serafina Rose. She thought to herself, Serafina is such a wonderful person. Why would I ever hurt her? What did Leo mean by that? Never in her life had Julianne been so filled with questions and confusion. In that instant, her feelings for Leo became even more complicated, an indescribable emotion, a mix of bewilderment and something like a crush. The feeling sent ripples across the calm surface of her heart. That evening, Serafina brought dinner back to the dorm for Julianne. She saw Julianne at her desk, engrossed in writing something in a notebook with a pen. Not wanting to disturb her, Serafina quietly set the food aside and went to her own desk. When Julianne finally finished and capped her pen, she saw the food Serafina had brought. Sarah, thank you. Serafina shook her head. It's nothing. What are you writing? A story, Julianne said, offering her the notebook. Want to see? Can I? Of course. With Julianne's permission, Serafina took the notebook and began to flip through the pages. After a few moments, she said, I never would have guessed. You seem so strong-willed, but you like writing stories about a prince falling for Cinderella. Julianne smiled. It's pretty cliché, huh? Not at all. It's really interesting, Serafina said, surprised. You've written so much. Why don't you use a computer? You could post it online for people to read. Julianne replied, Actually, I started this when I was a kid. I think I wrote the first page. Back in elementary school. Wow. Serafina breathed, closing the notebook and handing it back reverently. Then this must be really important to you. You should take good care of it. Thanks. Julianne looked down at the notebook. To be honest, I haven't opened it in a long time. The last time I wrote in it was the year I graduated from middle school. Why did you stop? Serafina asked curiously. Because. Julianne gave a self-deprecating laugh. I decided that a prince falling for Cinderella would never happen in real life. Princes only end up with princesses. Fairy tales are just fairy tales. Serafina asked carefully, what made you start writing again? Because, Julianne said, a sudden smile lighting up her face, I met someone recently. Ooh. Let me guess, Serafina leaned in close and whispered something in Julianne's ear. No. What are you talking about? There's no way I'd fall for him. Julianne vehemently denied the name Serafina had whispered. The two girls looked at each other and broke into simultaneous smiles. You've been reading novels all afternoon? Damon, finally closing his laptop after a marathon of meetings, turned to see Leo still engrossed in a book on the opposite sofa. Leo stood up and stretched. Me reading a novel is relaxation. You sitting in meetings all afternoon is torture. We finally get a break from the orientation boot camp, and you're still micromanaging your family's company. You're a real piece of work. My parents arranged it. I don't have a choice, Damon said with a helpless smile. I haven't had a day off since I was a kid. Leo clicked his tongue. Geez, your parents are intense. Are they? I guess I'm used to it. Damon shrugged. He then asked, what about you? Why do you like reading so much? Isn't it boring? When a person lacks material wealth, they seek fulfillment in the spiritual world, Leo said profoundly. Power fantasy novels are my spiritual bread and butter. Damon blurted out, but aren't you the heir to the Miller conglomerate? How could you lack material wealth? Leo was stumped. He couldn't exactly say, because I was dirt poor before I got zapped into this book. After a moment's thought, he said, I'm different. I just genuinely love novels. All right, Damon shrugged again. When I was a kid, we were too poor to afford the toys I wanted. I would always fantasize about being a billionaire CEO from one of my novels. Then I could have all the money in the world and buy anything I ever wanted. Leo Miller's notes. A week later, Damon and Julianne's sprained ankles had fully healed. Faking an injury to skip the freshman orientation boot camp was no longer an option. Leo had considered continuing the charade, strictly to avoid interfering with the original plot, of course, and definitely not to be lazy in the dorm. But then he remembered the plot was already a mess. Julianne had shown up early. What if, during the boot camp, she fell for Damon and had a schedule and made a move on him before Serafina could? That would be a disaster. He decided it was better to go and keep an eye on things. At least if he was watching his villainess, he could rest easy. Of course, Leo's worries were entirely unnecessary. Morning, Damon said. Morning. Leo opened his bedroom door to see Damon standing in front of the full-length mirror in the living room, adjusting his uniform. As expected of the male lead, even in a standard-issue camouflage uniform, he had an air about him that set him apart from the crowd. Though Leo mused, he still couldn't hold a candle to the dashing author who created him. After changing, the two of them headed to the assembly point together. The students hadn't formed up yet and were milling around in small groups, chatting. A week of boot camp had been enough for the freshmen to get to know each other. The girls had already formed their own cliques, while the guys were all roughhousing together. Having only attended a single day, Leo and Damon's skin tone was completely different from everyone else's. That, combined with their looks and height, made them stick out like a pair of supermodels at a public school. They just didn't fit in. They weren't the only ones. When the fair-skinned, beautiful Julianne and Serafina arrived, they also looked like they were rendered in a higher resolution than everyone around them. Especially Julianne. She wasn't even wearing the uniform. Huh. Leo froze, then strode over to her. Where's your uniform? Julianne avoided his eyes. Why? Why are you so concerned about me? Who's concerned about you? Leo denied it instantly. I was just asking. I'm not concerned at all. Julianne frowned, snapping back. What is wrong with you? If you're not concerned, why are you even asking? Mind your own business. Seeing them about to argue, Serafina quickly stepped in to explain. It's my uniform. I couldn't find it, so Jules lent me hers. Hearing this, Leo immediately understood. In the original plot, Serafina's uniform had been blown off her balcony by the wind. Unable to find it, she wore her own clothes to the drill and was punished by the instructor. Damon, worried about her injured leg, took the punishment for her. After the boot camp, he helped her find a uniform, scoring major brownie points in the process. At the time he wrote it, Leo had been quite proud of this plot point. But now, thinking about it from inside the story, the whole thing was full of holes. Would a billionaire CEO really watch the girl he liked get bullied by some low-level instructor, and then meekly accept the punishment for her? It just went to show that the author's perspective and the reader's were two very different things. Serafina turned to Julianne. Jules, Maybe I should give it back to you. They'll punish you for not wearing the uniform. Julianne shook her head. It's fine. My ankle just healed. The instructor won't punish me. But you're not injured. You'll definitely get in trouble if you're not in uniform. Leo watched their sisterly display, baffled. What did these two get so close? He didn't have time to dwell on it. The priority was to get Damon to find Serafina's uniform from under the dorm building. If the plot was already broken, he might as well speed it up. It's no big deal. It was windy yesterday. The uniform probably just blew behind the dorm building, Leo said, cutting them off. He turned to Serafina. I'll get Damon to help you find it. That way, neither of you gets punished. Julianne looked at Leo, a mix of surprise and suspicion on her face. How can you be so sure it fell behind the dorm? Tweet, tweet. Before she could finish, the whistle blew for assembly. Damn it. Too late. Leo glanced at the rapidly forming lines. He hesitated. Should he drag Damon to the girls' dorm now? The Royal Academy campus was huge. The athletic field was a good distance from the residential area. A round trip would take at least 20 minutes. While Leo was still hesitating, the instructor had already spotted Julianne. He marched up to her. Where's your uniform? Julianne replied with her pre-planned excuse. I lost it, sir. I'm going to the logistics office at lunch to get a new one. My ankle just healed, so could you please let it slide? You took a week of sick leave and managed to lose your uniform? Why didn't you lose yourself while you were at it? The instructor seemed genuinely angry. He pointed at Julianne and roared. Don't think you can use your ankle as an excuse. 100 frog jumps now. Julianne stood her ground, glaring at the instructor, clearly unhappy with his punishment. Serafina rushed to her defense. I'm sorry, sir. It was my uniform that went missing, and Julianne lent me hers. If you're going to punish someone, punish me. Her ankle really isn't better yet. She can't do frog jumps. Oh, wonderful. The instructor clapped sarcastically. What a touching display of sisterly love. Fine, you can do it together. 100 frog jumps each. Seeing Serafina in trouble, Damon immediately stepped forward. It's just a college orientation. There's no need to be this harsh. The instructor looked up at Damon. What? You want to stick up for them too? Damon pointed a finger at the instructor, his face cold. You dare speak to me like that? Do you have any idea who I am? I am Damon Sturr, MMPH. Before Damon could finish his grand declaration, Leo clamped a hand over his mouth. Don't say another word. I'll handle this, Leo whispered, then walked over to the fuming instructor. If he remembered correctly, to make the scene more plausible, he'd written in a detail that the instructor had just broken up with his long-distance girlfriend and was in a foul mood. Not wearing a uniform wasn't a huge deal. He just needed to calm the guy down. Leo approached the instructor with a smile. Sir, you remember me, right? Seeing Leo, the instructor's anger instantly deflated by half. This was the son of the school's chairman of the board. He was not someone you mess with. A word in private, Leo said, pulling the instructor aside. These three are my friends. Cut them some slack. Leo discreetly slipped a few folded bills into the instructor's pocket. Feeling the cash in his pocket, the instructor's temper vanished completely. He could find another girlfriend, but money was another story. Why would he want to piss off Leo Miller, his personal cash cow? His demeanor shifted instantly. He grinned obsequiously. Oh, Mr. Miller's friends, of course. But if the head instructor sees her without a uniform? Don't worry. I have a plan. Leo shot him a confident smile and walked back over to Julianne. Julianne looked up, her beautiful, fox-like eyes filled with curiosity. Leo took off his own cap and gently placed it on her head. It's handled, he said. Julianne stared at Leo's face, a strange light glinting in her stunning eyes. This man, she couldn't figure him out at all. She desperately wanted to ask him, who are you? Why do you keep helping me? Why are you being so nice to me? But the words wouldn't come out. For the rest of the morning, Julianne was completely distracted. She messed up several times, but thanks to Leo's influence, the instructor just turned a blind eye. During the final standing at attention drill, Damon whispered to Leo, what did you say to the instructor? Why'd he suddenly calm down? Leo replied coolly, that's grown-up business. Little kids shouldn't ask so many questions. Me? A little kid? You dare call me the great Damon Sturr, quiet in the back. Damon's proclamation was cut short by the instructor's bark. After being yelled at, Damon actually clammed up and stood there in silence. Leo couldn't help but laugh at Damon's obedient puppy act. What are you laughing at? Damon couldn't see Leo's face. Are you laughing at me? No, I just thought of something funny. What's so funny? Don't ask. Leo's gaze drifted to the front of the formation, where Julianne stood, wearing his camouflage cap. In the entire platoon, only Julianne was out of uniform, wearing a camo cap. And in the entire platoon, only he, Leo Miller, was in full camo but without a cap. It suddenly reminded him of his own freshman orientation at USC. One night, the wind had blown his uniform off the balcony. He'd searched for it all morning to no avail. In the end, his dorm mates had pieced together an outfit for him. One guy gave him a hat, another a shirt, another a pair of boots. The four of them had gone to the drill, each wearing an incomplete uniform. Because all four of them were improperly dressed, they'd gotten an earful from their instructor and were punished by having to run laps around the field. But that punishment had laid the foundation for 4 years of solid friendship. After graduation, they had all gone their separate ways and rarely saw each other. When he had written this scene in the book, he'd been thinking of that experience and had given the female lead a similar storyline. Here, thanks. After the morning session ended, Julianne took off the cap and handed it back to Leo. No problem. Leo expertly rolled it up and tucked it into his jacket pocket. Did you bribe the instructor again this morning? Julianne asked. How can you call it a bribe? I was merely making rational use of my power, Leo said with a tilt of his head. Besides, I only did it to help you. Julianne pointed at his mouth, a sly smile playing on her lips. See? You just admitted you bribed him. Leo was exasperated. Hey, you tricked me. Julianne blinked her expressive eyes innocently. I have no idea what you're talking about. You're the one who let it slip. Leo covered his face, speechless. By the way, Julianne stared into his eyes. Why do you really help me? I already told you. I'm just a helpful guy. This time, it was Julianne's turn to be silent. She rolled her eyes at him. Just then, Serafina walked over. Leo, she asked, this morning you said my uniform was probably blown behind the dorm. Was that true? Of course it's... Leo started to say it was true, but then he caught himself. If he sounded too certain, Julianne would get even more suspicious. He quickly changed his tune. I guess. My own clothes blew off the balcony yesterday, so I figured the same thing might have happened to your uniform. Damon, standing nearby, cluelessly interjected, but you didn't do any laundry yesterday. Leo's world went dark for a second. He grabbed Damon and whispered fiercely, Can you please read the room before you speak? Now is not the time to expose me. Oh, okay. Damon nodded obediently, but Leo had a sinking feeling the kid hadn't really understood. Julianne eyed Leo suspiciously. I'm starting to think you don't have a single honest bone in your body. Seriously, Julianne? I do all this for you, and this is the thanks I get. Leo clutched his chest, feigning heartbreak. Fine, I'm done with you. Sterling, let's go. With that, Leo turned and bolted. If he didn't escape now, Julianne would just corner him with more questions. Huh. Damon scratched his head, still a bit confused, but he followed Leo anyway. Done with me? Julianne muttered with a pout. What is he, a kindergartner? Come on, Serafina said, taking Julianne's hand with a smile. Let's go find my uniform. Okay. The two of them went back to the girls' dorm. It didn't take long before they found the missing uniform in the bushes behind the building. Found it. I really found it. Serafina clutched the recovered uniform, turning to Julianne excitedly. That Leo guy is amazing. He actually guessed right. Julianne cupped her chin, lost in thought. That guy, how does he seem to know everything? How did he figure that out? And with so much confidence. Meanwhile, back in the boys' dorm, Leo was lecturing Damon. Sometimes you can't be so honest. Like today, I obviously had my reasons for lying. You can't just blow my cover like that, you know? Okay. Damon nodded obediently, but then a thought occurred to him. Wait a minute. I'm the great Damon Sterling. Why am I listening to this guy? He defaulted back to his billionaire romance hero script. Are you telling me what to do? He's glitching again, Leo groaned, burying his face in his hands. Summer, evening, a light breeze. On the school's athletic field, the smell of fresh-cut grass and damp earth mingled with the last remnants of the day's heat, creating a peculiar, nostalgic scent. Back at USC, walking across the field after a game with his roommates, he'd always smelled this. At the time, he'd thought nothing of it. But now, having been out of college for a few years, to be back on a campus and smell that familiar scent again, it felt surreal. As the evening breeze brushed against his face after a long day of orientation, Leo closed his eyes, a sense of peace washing over him. Damon looked down at Leo, who was sitting on the grass. What are you smelling? You don't smell it? Leo asked, his eyes still closed. Smell what? Damon frowned and, mimicking Leo, closed his eyes and took a tentative sniff. I don't smell anything. Really? Nothing at all. Leo opened his eyes and looked up at him. You don't smell that vibrant, youthful energy in the air? He opened and closed his hand, trying to physically convey the feeling. But Damon, the born-and-bred billionaire, clearly couldn't comprehend the special nostalgia of former working-class guy felt for campus life. He just shook his head blankly. Leo rolled his eyes. Forget it. A guy like you will never get it. Damon just pouted, not bothering to reply. In his mind, Leo was just a weirdo. What are you guys doing? Serafina approached, Julianne at her side. Damon pointed at Leo on the ground. Miller says he's soaking in the youthful vibes. You call him Miller. He calls you Sterling. What's with the weird nicknames? Serafina's focus was, as usual, unique. It's an agreement we came to, Damon replied. Ooh, look at you two with your little pet names, Julianne teased with a wicked grin. She looked down at Leo. By youthful vibes, you don't mean sitting on the ground trying to look up girls' skirts, do you? Why do you always think the worst of me? Leo crossed his arms and shot her a glare. We're all wearing camo pants. What skirts am I supposed to be looking at? I wouldn't know, Julianne said, raising a delicate eyebrow, a captivating smile playing on her lips. Who knows what kind of weird hobbies you have? I'm not even going to dignify that with a response. Knowing he couldn't win, Leo turned his head and stared across the field. Seeing him get flustered, Julianne's smile grew even brighter. She didn't know why, but seeing Leo get worked up was just endlessly amusing. With no training in the evening, the instructor brought out a speaker and pitted their platoon against others in a song battle. They were supposed to belt out the anthems they'd learned during the day, the goal being to outsing the other teams. It was meant to be a team-building exercise, a way to foster collective pride. The idea was good, but the reality fell flat. When the song battle started, besides a few enthusiastic platoons, the only thing making any real noise was the instructor speaker. Seeing the lack of participation, he asked if anyone wanted to perform a talent. The orientation talent show. It was a time-honored tradition, a rite of passage. In the age of social media, a good performance could even go viral. This was the moment for the show-offs to shine, their one shot at securing social dominance for the next 4 years. But for Finance Platoon 1, it was a disaster. One student after another went up and crashed and burned. In the novel, this was when the heroine, after an argument with the hero, would go on stage and perform a stunning rendition of Lover by the band Beyond, instantly earning her the title of Freshman Campus Belle. This time, however, Damon and Serafina weren't arguing. They weren't even paying attention to the music. Instead, they were stealing furtive glances at each other, their eyes meeting for a split second before darting away in a flurry of panic. Leo watched them silently, thinking this isn't right. Nothing has even happened between you two yet, and you're already making goo-goo eyes at each other? This makes no sense. Serafina, get up there and sing. If you don't tell me I have to. Hey, Julianne nudged him with her elbow. What? Pulled from his thoughts, Leo looked at her with a frown. A wicked smile touched her lips. You should go up and sing a song. Leo shot back. Why don't you go? I'm tone deaf. So am I, he replied, throwing her own excuse back at her. She shook her head. I don't believe you. You'll have to go up and prove it. Reverse psychology won't work on me, Leo said, getting to his feet. I'm done with this. The heroine's big performance wasn't happening, so Leo had lost interest in staying. He decided to leave. As he walked away, Julianne sneakily stuck out her foot and tripped him. Whoa! Leo stumbled forward, barely catching his balance. The next second, a phone was shoved in his face. He looked up to see the instructor beaming at him. Mr. Miller, what song would you like to sing? As the instructor spoke, all eyes turned to him. He was trapped. If he didn't perform now, there was no way he could back down. Me? Leo looked back in bewilderment and saw Julianne sitting on the ground, hugging her knees, an expression of pure innocence on her face, as if she had nothing to do with it. Of course, Leo thought, fuming internally, the most devious villainess from my own book, tripping me just to embarrass me in public. The acting, the cunning. She's a menace. There was no way out. He had to do it. Since the heroine wasn't going to sing it, Leo thought he might as well sing Iris himself. He took the instructor's phone, searched for the instrumental track For Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls, and the opening chords immediately filled the air from the small portable speaker. There was no microphone. Unsure what to do with his other hand, he self-consciously shoved it into his pocket. He was nervous, so he closed his eyes. And suddenly, he was back at his own freshman orientation at USC. So many talented people had performed that night. He had wanted to sing, too, but he'd been too afraid of embarrassing himself. It had become one of his regrets. Later, he had poured that regret into his book, letting his heroine have the moment that should have been his. Now, things had come full circle. This time, it was up to him to fix his own past. The intro ended. Leo slowly opened his mouth. And I'd give up forever to touch you, because I know that you feel me somehow. And I don't want the world to see me, because I don't think that they'd understand. When everything's made to be broken, I just want you to know who I am. Leo's clear, resonant voice quickly drew students from other platoons. The circle around him grew larger and larger, yet no one made a sound, afraid that even the slightest noise would drown out his singing. Everyone sat on the grass, listening quietly. Julianne picked up her phone, switched on the flashlight, and began to sway her arm to the rhythm. One by one, others followed her lead, pulling out their phones and turning on their own lights. When Leo, completely absorbed in the song, finished and opened his eyes, the sight made his own eyes well up. For 4 years at USC, he had lived like a background character, an extra in someone else's movie. But now, here in the world of his own book, he was getting to experience what it felt like to be the main character. A complex mix of emotions washed over him, gratitude, maybe a little heartache, he couldn't tell. He looked over at Julianne and felt a sudden wave of appreciation. He was glad she had messed with him, glad she had given him the push he needed to be brave. Julianne held up her phone and gave him a subtle smile. Illuminated by the phone's light, her face was as flawless as polished alabaster, her smile more radiant and captivating than ever. There were no stars in the sky tonight because they were all on the ground. From above, the field looked like a galaxy, the phone flashlights twinkling like 1,000 tiny stars. The cool autumn air, the starry field, the shared experience. This night became the unforgettable overture to their college lives, a moment etched forever into the memory of their first summer on campus. Who was that guy who was singing? What platoon is he in? Finance 1, I think. He was so good. And he's tall and handsome, too. He seemed a little shy, though. He sang with his eyes closed and his head down. If Damon Sterling wasn't here, I'd totally call him the freshman prince. I heard a rumor he's the son of one of the school's board members, that his family owns the Royal Academy. They're probably on the same level as the Sterlings. So you're saying our freshman class has 2 top-tier heirs? And get this, I heard he and Damon Sterling are roommates. They seem to be friends. Okay, ladies, you can have Damon Sterling. The cute singing guy is mine. Forget it. He already left with Damon Sterling. And they were with 2 girls. You don't have a chance. After Leo finished his song and left, the field was buzzing with talk about him. The orientation talent show had become his unofficial debut at the Royal Academy. Damon, size him up. I didn't know you could sing like that. Leo smiled sheepishly. It's just a song I really like. I listen to it a lot, so I know it pretty well. If it had been anything else, I would have totally bombed. Serafina, walking beside Damon, added, I love Iris too. If I had gone up to sing, I definitely would have chosen that song. Oh, really? Leo managed a tight smile, thinking, yeah, because you were supposed to be the one singing it tonight. Why do you still look unhappy? Julianne had caught his strained expression. You should be thanking me. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have had a chance to be the star of the show. Thank you for what? Leo rolled his eyes at her. Fess up. When I got up to leave, you tripped me, didn't you? Julianne blinked at him, her face a mask of bewilderment. What are you talking about? Her acting was so flawless that if Leo hadn't known her true nature, he might have actually believed her. Keep pretending. You're the best at it, Leo said, crossing his arms. I didn't embarrass myself up there. You must be so disappointed. Why would I be disappointed? Julianne frowned at him. You were great. I couldn't be happier for you. Her words threw Leo for a loop. She didn't want to see me make a fool of myself? He wondered. Then why does she push me to go up there? It can't be because she knows my secret, can it? He couldn't figure it out. Beside him, a subtle, knowing smile played on Julianne's lips. The truth was Leo was right. Julianne had seen that he wanted to sing, but was too self-conscious to go up on his own. How did she know what he was thinking? Because she was the same way. She had also dreamed of showing off her best side, of being the one in the spotlight, the center of everyone's attention. So she could read the longing in his eyes. Julianne found Leo to be a strange person. He and Damon were both sons of wealthy families, but Leo carried a deep-seated insecurity. He was handsome, but he always walked with his head down. He could sing, but he was too shy to get on stage. If I had his advantages, she thought, I would be overflowing with confidence. What could he possibly have to be insecure about? I used to think that having money would make you confident. It was only later that I realized that people who grow up feeling insecure will only ever see their own flaws, magnifying them until they forget their strengths entirely. Leo Miller's notes. The 14-day orientation boot camp was a wash. They'd spent the first 7 days on sick leave, and the last 2 were rained out. In total, the 4 of them had participated for less than 5 days. On Friday afternoon, after 2 days of rain, the sky finally cleared. The air was fresh and clean, and the gentle sun warmed the athletic field's track. After all the platoons had completed their final parade march, the school president took the stage for the closing ceremony speech. While the president droned on, The instructors quietly boarded their buses and left. By the time the painfully long speech was over, they were already on the highway. And just like every year, a few female students would start crying, wailing about how much they'd missed their instructors. Leo had seen it happen at USC, and now he was seeing it again at the Royal Academy. It was just as cringy as he remembered. Standing beside him, Julianne muttered under her breath, "In elementary school, it's the class president. In middle school, it's the bad boy. In high school, the jock. During orientation, it's the instructor. In college, the TA. At the DMV, the driving instructor. At work, the boss. These girls are less loyal than a horny poodle. A bunch of weirdos." "Well said," Leo said, giving her a thumbs up. After all this time, Julianne had finally said something he wholeheartedly agreed with. Julianne looked at the thumbs up, blinked, and then met his gaze. They both broke into a smile. With Saturday and Sunday off, the students were free to go home right after the closing ceremony. Before leaving, Leo, Damon, and Serafina all exchanged contact info. He deliberately skipped Julianne. "What's your problem?" As expected, Julianne, who had been holding her phone out waiting to be added, was not pleased when Leo added the other two and then pocketed his phone. "What's your problem?" "Huh." Leo mimicked her usual innocent act. "What's wrong? Why are you so angry all of a sudden?" Seeing him play dumb, Julianne raised an eyebrow and gave him a cold, tight-lipped smile. "It's nothing. I just happened to take some really ugly pictures of you during training. Get ready to see yourself on the campus gossip page." Knowing he wouldn't believe her, she even opened her photo gallery to give him a peek. He couldn't see it clearly, but he could tell it was definitely an unflattering shot. "Crap." Leo's bravado vanished. Julianne. "My dearest Julianne, please don't. Let's add each other, and you can just delete the photo, okay?" "Oh, I wouldn't dare," Julianne said with a pout. "You're the great Leo Miller. How could I dare to be your contact?" Hey, don't go." Leo immediately chased after her. After a solid minute of begging, she reluctantly pulled out her phone and displayed her QR code for him to scan. Once they were connected, she sent him the photo she'd shown him. Leo's face turned green. It wasn't an ugly picture of him at all. It was a cursed reaction meme from the internet. He pointed a finger at her. "You played me. Oh, Mr. Miller, you're the one with bad eyesight. How can you blame me?" Julianne gave him a sultry wink with one of her captivating, fox-like eyes, then turned and skipped away, leaving him with nothing but the memory of her playful retreat. "She's truly the villainess I wrote her to be," Leo thought, watching her go, tricking me with a single meme. The woman has skills. Are you sure you're not just an idiot? Outside the school gates, Leo climbed into the car his butler had arranged and sped off. Today, his parents from the book world were home. To his surprise, their names were the same as his parents in real life. His father was Charles Miller, and his mother was Michelle Miller. Like the Millers, the Joe family, Michelle's family, was also one of Ethelberg's elite. But while the names were the same, their looks and personalities were completely different. From his features, Leo could tell Charles must have been handsome when he was younger, but he was now overweight and had a loud, boisterous personality, reminding Leo of a character from a goofy comedy. "Son." Hearing Leo enter, Charles stood up and walked toward him with open arms. "Dad." Leo also opened his arms, feigning excitement, and walked forward. The moment before they were supposed to embrace, they passed each other. Charles grabbed the maid standing next to Leo in a tight hug. "Son, I haven't seen you in days. Your chest muscles have gotten so big, and your hair is so long. You should get a haircut." "Dad, I'm over here," Leo said, tapping his father's shoulder, his face a mask of exasperation. "Oh." Charles released the maid and immediately enveloped Leo in a hug. "Son, your father, that old coot," his mother, Michelle, said as she approached. "His eyesight is getting worse and worse. Without his glasses, he can't tell a man from a woman at 3 feet or a person from a lamppost at 10. Michelle looked every bit the part of a wealthy matriarch from a TV drama. She was the same age as Charles, but had maintained her appearance so well that she looked much younger. "No way for real?" Leo glanced at his mother. "Then why don't you get him a pair of glasses?" "I did," Michelle said. "He refuses to wear them." "Well, that's not good. Mom, you have to make sure he does." The word mom caught in Leo's throat. His own mother had died of cancer when he was in middle school. He hadn't said the word in almost a decade. Now, having to say it again to play the part of someone else's son felt deeply strange. Michelle patted Charles's shoulder. "All right, that's enough hugging. Our son just got back from boot camp. Let him rest." Right. Charles released Leo and clapped him on the shoulder. "Son, you're back. Show your old man and your mom what you learned at camp." Leo scanned the living room. "Here? I don't think that's a good idea. Don't be shy. Come on, show us." Charles encouraged. All right, I'll do a couple of push-ups. Excellent. Both his parents nodded in unison. As Leo started doing push-ups in the living room, all the house staff gathered around to cheer him on. Young master is so handsome. So manly, Charles exclaimed. That's my boy. Even when he's humping the floor, he does it with style, just like his old man. Michelle sighed. You idiot. He's doing push-ups. Huh. Charles's eyes widened. Is that how you do push-ups? Leo stood up, his face not the least bit red, and asked, Mom, Dad, what do you think of my boot camp results? Fantastic. That's my son. Charles gave him a thumbs up. Son, you need more allowance? Want me to transfer you a few million? Leo waved his hand. No, Dad, it's fine. I'm in my own family school. I don't need that much. All right, but if you're ever short, just let me know. Okay, I'm going to go upstairs and rest. The moment the elevator doors closed, Leo let out a huge sigh of relief. It was his first time acting like a spoiled rich kid, and he had no idea if he'd pulled it off. He had a sneaking suspicion that his floor-humping push-ups had made him look like a complete moron. Back in his room, he kicked off his slippers, flopped onto his bed, and mindlessly scrolled through his phone. Before, his life had been a constant hustle, working shifts at a convenience store during the day, writing his novel at night in a tiny rented room. Now that he was rich and had free time, he had no idea what to do with himself. He opened his social media feed. Serafina had posted a video of herself playing the piano. Underneath were likes from Damon and Julianne. Leo added his own. If he wasn't mistaken, Damon was probably still in a meeting for his company. He wondered what Julianne was up to. Just as he was thinking about her, a little red dot appeared on his feed. He refreshed. It was a new post from Julianne. The caption read, picking up the pen again. The picture was of an old, filled notebook. A new pen lay across it, and a small capybara figurine was holding down one corner. Looking at the photo, Leo's first thought was, she keeps a diary. He zoomed in, trying to read what was written on the page, but the image was too blurry. He guessed she had deliberately made it that way. Ding. The notification sound made Julianne's eyes light up as she snatched her phone from the desk. Seeing it was just a spam notification from a shopping app, her expression fell. She listlessly put the phone back down. A little while later, she opened her social media feed again. She saw the post she'd made, with a like from Leo already on it. She grumbled to herself, doesn't this idiot have any curiosity about what's written in my notebook? He's just pretending. He's pretending not to care, waiting for me to message him first. That has to be it. Well, he can dream on. Why would I message him first? Who does he think he is? She waited a while longer, but the only notifications she received were more ads. To stop herself from being distracted, she finally shoved her phone into a drawer, picked up her pen, and began to write. As the sky darkened, Julianne finally closed her notebook, stood up, and went to the kitchen to make dinner. The downtown of Ethelberg City was a forest of glittering skyscrapers, a city of dreams. But just a few miles away, the suburbs devolved into slums and abandoned construction projects. Julianne lived in one of the larger ones, a dense collection of low-income housing. They were called housing projects, but they were really just slums. The buildings were crammed with people, like human beehives. Some families of 5 were squeezed into apartments no bigger than a public restroom, with zero privacy, sleeping in bunk beds. In a city where every square inch was gold, you couldn't even rent a decent stairwell for a couple $1,000 a month, but here, you could at least get a single room big enough to lie down in. The people here worked all over Ethelberg during the day and took the subway back to their tiny rooms at night. Julianne had originally lived in the city proper, but her father was a gambling addict who had racked up so much debt that he'd sold their apartment to pay it off. They'd ended up here, in a small, dilapidated 2-bedroom unit. It was a dump, but at least it was a place to stay. Lately, however, her father had his eyes on this place, too, constantly pressuring her mother to sign the sale agreement. Julianne didn't know how much longer this place would be her home. She tried not to think about it. She'd already made a plan. If her deadbeat father really sold their last refuge for gambling money, she would drop out of school, take her mother, and flee Ethelberg forever. After making dinner, she packed a portion for her mother and then sat down to eat. She was halfway through her meal when her father came home. BM. He kicked the door open and staggered in. He was home early and hadn't been drinking, which could only mean one thing. He'd lost all his money. Sure enough, seeing Julianne eating alone, he lurched over and sat down across from her. Your classmates are all rich, right? Do you still have that one guy's number? The one from last time? Can you ask him to lend your dad some money? Julianne answered coolly, I don't know him that well. Don't know him well? Then why would he give you money? I don't know. You two must be close, right? Does he like you? Julianne fought to keep her anger down. I said, I don't know him that well. Then, Then there must be some money in the house, right? He asked, his eyes scanning the food on the table. Where did your mother hide the money? There's no money left, Julianne said, her face hardening. I got this food on credit from Mrs. Wong next door. I have to help her sell vegetables tomorrow to pay her back. I don't believe you. You're hiding it, he shouted, growing agitated. He pointed a finger at her. You're just like your mother, always hiding money. Julianne didn't answer, just continued to eat silently. Stop eating. Crash. Her indifference infuriated him. He shoved the table, sending her bowl flying. It shattered on the floor, scattering rice and ceramic shards everywhere. You're insane, Julianne spat coldly. She stood up and went to her room. Every time he lost money gambling, he turned into a crazed addict, tearing the house apart looking for cash. She was used to it. She was too tired to even be angry anymore. She went to her room, grabbed her phone and her writing notebook, then went to the kitchen to pick up the meal she had packed. She was going to the hospital to bring her mother dinner. Her father's eyes locked onto the notebook in her hand. What's that? What's in that book? She ignored him, put on her shoes, and prepared to leave. Don't you go. There must be money hidden in there, right? Before she could open the door, he lunged at her, trying to snatch the notebook. This is mine. Don't touch it. Julianne yelped, dropping the food container to fight him for the notebook. Let me see. Is there money in there? Enough. You're a lunatic. There isn't a single cent left in this house. Mom's hospital bills are already tens of thousands overdue. Tell it to someone who'll believe you. If you had no money, how could you be going to the Royal Academy? I have a full scholarship. Julianne, listen to your father. Just give me the money. I know I can win it all back this time. Then we can pay for your mom's medical bills, and we can move back to the city. Enough. Shut up. I don't have a father like you. Rip. In their struggle, the notebook was torn in half. Julianne stood frozen, staring at her father, who was now completely consumed by his addiction. Her chest heaved with rage. That's it. I will never, ever acknowledge a monster like you as my father, she screamed. She raised the thermos she had packed for her mother and slammed it down on his head. Arg! He clutched his head and shrieked as blood began to trickle from the gash. The blow wasn't fatal, but it would definitely leave a scar. Julianne panicked. She scrambled to pick up the scattered pages of her notebook, then bolted out the door, ignoring her father's shouts behind her. She had left her mother's dinner behind. She had nowhere to go. After running for some distance, she finally stopped, crouching down by the side of the road. She gently opened her arms, revealing the torn, crumpled notebook she had been clutching to her chest. Whenever Lady Yuzu was in danger, her prince on a white horse would appear to save her. Reading the childish handwriting on the page, Julianne could no longer hold back her tears. She tried to wipe them away, desperate not to let them stain the pages, but they fell uncontrollably, splattering onto the paper. She thought of what Leo had told her on the first day of school. If you run into any trouble at school, you can come to me. I'll help you. Remember my name, it's Leo Miller. As if possessed, Julianne pulled out her phone, found Leo's contact, and hit the call button. Hello. Hello. Why aren't you talking? Leo glanced at his phone, confirmed it was Julianne, and spoke again. Did something happen? Where are you? I'll come find you right now. The other end of the line was silent, but Leo could hear a faint, rustling sound. He guessed she was secretly wiping away tears. He tried again, his voice softer. Julianne, where are you? Beep, beep, beep. This time she hung up. Staring at the ended call, a jolt of alarm went through Leo. He was terrified she might do something drastic. He dropped his fork, stood up, and headed for the elevator. Son, you're not finishing your dinner? Michelle called after him. You and Dad go ahead and eat. I have to go out for a bit, he replied, pressing the button for the underground garage. As the elevator doors slid shut, Michelle murmured, What's gotten into that boy? He takes one phone call and doesn't even eat. He's growing up, honey, Charles said with a cheerful smile, taking a bite of food. Why does the beef tonight taste like lamb? Because you just ate a piece of lamb. Honestly, Charles, we should just have your eyes removed. Leo took the Koenigsegg and sped away from the mansion. If you remember correctly, Julianne's family lived in a housing project a dozen or so miles outside the city center. When he wrote the book, he had only given a brief description. He didn't know the exact address. At night, Ethelberg was a river of light and traffic, but as he drove toward the outskirts, the scenery changed dramatically. The closer he got to the projects, the more dilapidated the buildings became. Half an hour later, the aggressively styled supercar pulled into a vacant lot in front of a row of hulking, oppressive apartment buildings. Leo stepped out of the car and stood there, staring at the densely packed structures. For a moment, his thoughts drifted. This place. It was almost identical to the old suburban complex he and his parents had lived in when he was a child. But this was no time for nostalgia. He had to find Julianne before she did something she'd regret. Working from memory, he walked toward the cluster of buildings. Julianne was crouched by a low stone wall at the entrance, using the faint light spilling from a nearby window to piece together her torn notebook. The moment she had heard Leo's voice on the phone, her tears had started flowing even harder. She didn't want him to see her in such a pathetic state, so she had hung up after only a few seconds. As she worked, her mind was still on Leo. She regretted calling him. For so many years, she had survived like this. She was used to living in this dark, hopeless world. So why? Why did she have to involve a stranger she had only known for a couple of weeks? He was a real Prince Charming, but she was no Cinderella. Why did he have to save her? A sudden gust of wind swept through, lifting several pages of her notebook into the air. Julianne lunged for them, but the wind seemed to be toying with her. Just as her fingers were about to close around them, the pages fluttered away again, drifting further down the path. Clutching the rest of her ruined notebook, she ran after them. Just as she was about to grab the mischievous, dancing sheets of paper, a hand, long-fingered, pale and elegant, shot out and caught them. Julianne slowly looked up, her gaze landing on the face of the boy standing before her. The dim light traced the handsome lines of his face, his features sharp and well-defined. His eyes, deep and dark, seemed to hold a universe of secrets, and they captured her gaze, holding it fast. They were surrounded by the towering, cage-like buildings that blotted out the sky, allowing only slivers of moonlight to pierce the gloom. Beneath this oppressive sky, the two of them stood facing each other. The dejected girl clutched her notebook, her head tilted up, her eyes lost as she looked at the boy. Bathed in the silvery moonlight, he seemed to glow, as beautiful and unreal as the Prince Charming from her dreams. For a moment, the scene was frozen, time itself suspended in a quiet, delicate stillness. Julianne finally broke the silence, her voice a soft whisper as she said his name. Leo Miller. Her voice shattered the spell, and time began to flow again. Leo handed her the pages. "What happened?" he asked gently. His eyes fell on her face, and he saw the redness around her eyes. He knew she had been crying, but he also knew how proud and stubborn she was, so he deliberately avoided mentioning it, asking only what had happened. Julianne fought back the tears that threatened to spill over and shook her head. "It's nothing." Seeing she wouldn't talk, Leo didn't press her. He took her by the wrist and led her back toward the parking lot. Julianne didn't resist, just quietly let him lead her away. Once they were in the car, Leo didn't start the engine immediately. "Have you eaten?" She hesitated. Leo didn't need to hear anymore. He started the car and drove toward the city. Inside the car, Julianne paid no attention to the Koenigsegg's luxurious interior. Her eyes were fixed on Leo's profile. Leo was surprised. For Julianne Hale, the book's resident gold digger who was supposed to be obsessed with marrying the hero and climbing the social ladder, her current self seemed remarkably indifferent to money. This Julianne was different from the villainess he thought he knew. Her constant staring was making him uncomfortable. "Why are you staring at me?" "I'm afraid you'll suddenly disappear," she answered. "Why would you say that?" This time, Julianne didn't answer. Instead, she asked a question of her own. "Leo, why are you being so nice to me? I just like to help people. Is that so wrong?" "I don't believe you," she said, shaking her head. "Believe what you want," Leo shot back, rolling his eyes. Julianne returned his glare with a charming, faint smile. Leo took Julianne to one of his family's high-end restaurants for a late dinner. After the meal, her mood had improved considerably. Seeing her spirits lift, Leo asked, "Can you tell me what happened now?" Julianne didn't answer his question. Instead, she made a quiet request. "Can you take me somewhere else?" "Where to?" "The hospital," she said, looking him in the eye. "My mom is in the hospital." "Your mom works at the hospital?" That was Leo's first reaction. He was pretty sure he'd never mentioned her mother's job in the novel. Julianne shook her head. "No, she's sick. She's a patient." The words hit Leo like a punch to the gut. He thought of his own mother. She had passed away from cancer when he was in middle school. He had been too young, too helpless to do anything but watch as the person who loved him most in the world was taken from him forever. A sudden urgency seized him. "What is it? Is it serious?" "My dad borrowed money for gambling and couldn't pay it back. The debt collectors came to our house. They beat my mom. She has multiple fractures." As she spoke, the anger flared in her eyes again. She hated him. She hated that worthless excuse for a father. If it weren't for him, her mother wouldn't have suffered so much. Her own life wouldn't have been so miserable. Leo stood up. "Okay, I'll go with you to see her. Wait, let me get a go box. I I want to bring some food for my mom, Julianne said, starting to get up. Leo stopped her. You don't need to pack up the leftovers. I'll just buy her something fresh. But Julianne looked at the barely touched dishes on the table and shook her head. Let's just take this. It would be a waste not to. With that, she hurried out of the private room. Leo sat back down, looking at the table laden with food, lost in thought. Julianne, true to her word, didn't waste a single bite. She had everything packed up, filling 2 large bags. You really? Julianne looked up at Leo, holding the bags full of containers. Why did you order so much food for just 2 people? I didn't know what you liked, so I ordered a little of everything, Leo said, feigning nonchalance. I've got money. A few dishes aren't going to bankrupt me. Right. Julianne rolled her eyes. You're the rich boy. You've never had to struggle a day in your life. You wouldn't understand how we poor people have to budget every penny. Her words left Leo speechless. How could he have never struggled? He just gave a tight, bitter smile. He drove Julianne to the hospital where her mother was staying, but didn't go upstairs. For one, Julianne didn't want him to. She was afraid her mother would get the wrong idea about them. For another, Leo himself felt it would be awkward. A mother-daughter reunion was a private thing. He would just be an intruder. So, he waited in the first-floor lobby. Julianne wasn't gone for long before she came rushing back down. That was fast, Leo said, surprised. Can I borrow some money? She asked, looking down the floor, her voice small. How much do you need? Leo said, pulling out his wallet. She held up one finger. A little over 1,000. Leo frowned. How much is a little over 1,000? $1,082.50, she said, precise to the penny. Leo counted out $1,100 bills. I don't have any change. Here's $1,100. Thank you. She took the money and hurried off. A few moments later, she returned, a handful of bills and coins clutched in her fist. $1,750. Here's your change. Leo waved it away. You keep it. What? You're too good for $1,750. She stuffed the money into her pocket. This could buy a pound of meat with some leftover. Then you keep it and buy some pork. I'm going to go back up and talk to my mom for a few more minutes, she said. This money and the money from last time, I'll pay you back as soon as I earn it from my part-time job. We'll see, Leo said with an indifferent wave. After paying the bill, Julianne went back to her mother's room for a little while longer before coming back down, not keeping Leo waiting long. After leaving the hospital, Julianne had nowhere to go. So Leo drove her to a place he knew, Crescent Bay Beach. In his book, this was where the main characters had their official confession of love. It was also the first place he had appeared after being transported into this world. He parked the car, and they both took off their shoes and socks and walked onto the sand. The fine grains felt cool and soft under their feet, and the gentle waves lapped at their ankles. At night, the ocean was a vast expanse of deep, mysterious black, swallowing all noise and chaos. Only the moonlight spilled down, turning the sand to soft, silvery white, like a dream. High above, the stars twinkled like jewels set in the velvet sky, keeping the full moon company. Leo finally spoke again. Are you ready to tell me why you were so upset tonight? Do you really want to know? Julianne tilted her head, her deep, expressive eyes shimmering in the moonlight, even more captivating than usual. The heart-shaped beauty mark at the corner of her eye was like a tiny, sparkling gem, so alluring it made you want to lean in and kiss it. I do, Leo nodded quickly. Julianne paused for a moment. Then a teasing smile spread across her face. Then I'm not telling you. Hey, I'm the great Leo Miller. I've been chauffeuring you around all night, and you're still messing with me? Ha ha! Julianne burst into genuine, heartfelt laughter. You asked for it. Leo playfully kicked seawater at her. She shrieked and ran. They chased each other along the shoreline for what felt like an eternity. Finally, exhausted, Leo gave up the chase and flopped onto the dry sand further up the beach, linking his hands behind his head and gazing up at the stars. Julianne lay down next to him, and they watched the stars together in silence. Leo, she said softly, yeah, do you think stories about princes falling for Cinderellas could ever happen in real life? I don't know. Maybe. Do you know what was in that notebook that got torn up? Leo's ears perked up. He was suddenly very interested. What was it? It was a novel I was writing. A novel. The word hit Leo like a shockwave. He turned his head slightly to look at her. The moonlight perfectly illuminated the flawless contours of her face. For a second, Leo was completely captivated. She's just the villainess, he thought, panicking slightly. Why'd I have to write her to be so damn beautiful? Yeah, that was a story I wrote when I was a kid, Julianne said, tilting her head to glance at him. The moment their eyes met, Leo's heart skipped a beat. Julianne began to tell him her story. My mom told me that before I was born, our family wasn't doing too badly. My dad was a skilled machinist at a manufacturing plant. Back then, he was pulling in a solid six-figure salary. We were a comfortable middle-class family. But the year after I was born, the plant shut down. Later, my dad took our savings to start a business, but he lost every penny. He never recovered. He started gambling, sold the house, the car, everything. He decided I was a jinx. He was convinced that my birth was the reason our family's luck turned. When I was really little, he tried to sell me, but my mom and my grandma fought him tooth and nail to keep me. After my grandma passed, my mom was the only one left who cared about me. She wasn't healthy, but she worked multiple jobs to keep us afloat. Every time my dad lost at gambling, he'd come home and start a fight with her. My mom has a fiery temper, too. They'd always end up screaming, throwing things. The house would be a wreck, and I'd just be huddled in a corner, watching it all happen. My entire childhood was an endless loop of their fighting. In school, I wasn't a good student at first. I was that invisible kid no one noticed. I knew I wasn't the sharpest, but I refused to accept it. Why did my life have to be so awful? If I was bad at school, I would just study myself to death. I worked 10, 20 times harder than anyone else. It paid off. After the 5th grade, my grades never dropped out of the top 10. But no one knew how much effort went into that ranking. No matter how well I did, I could never make my father happy. The fighting at home never stopped just because I was getting good grades. And because of my family situation, I was a loner. I had almost no friends at school. The few classmates who got close to me would end up having bad luck. That's when I started to think my father was right. That I really was cursed, born under a bad star. That I only brought misfortune to others, and my own life was nothing but misfortune. Sometimes I'd wonder, if I had never existed, would the world be a better place? When my neighbor graduated high school, she gave me a bunch of her old books. Besides textbooks, there were a few romance novels. That's when I fell in love with reading. Whenever my parents fought, I'd hide in my room and escape into those stories. Leo, you know? Back then, I wished so hard that I could be a Cinderella from one of those novels, that some Prince Charming would rescue me from that suffocating home. So, I picked up a pen and paper and started writing the story I saw in my head. A gambling addict for a father, a chronically ill mother, a deceased grandmother, and her own shattered spirit. When Leo had first written Julianne's character profile, it was to make her eventual dark turn, seducing the male lead and framing the heroine for personal gain. More logical. He never imagined that the few words he'd casually typed out represented someone's entire, tragic life. Listening to Julianne's story pulled Leo back to his own childhood. He'd spent his early years crammed with his parents into a tiny apartment in the projects, where you couldn't see the sky for the concrete, and the ground was a constant crawl of bugs and vermin. His most vivid memories were also of his parents fighting. Poverty breeds resentment, and for a couple struggling to make ends meet, arguments were constant. They could fight over anything. They were dirt poor. Leo's favorite thing to do was to spend half an hour after school at the corner store, flipping through the new comic books and romance paperbacks. He'd especially hide out there when his parents were fighting. Back then, the romance novels were all written from a female perspective, which might have been one reason he ended up writing for that demographic to make a living. But whether the protagonist was male or female, it never stopped him from imagining himself as the rich, powerful hero. The old man who ran the corner store was kind to him. He knew about Leo's situation at home. Whenever Leo ran over, sobbing, the old man would give him a snack, tell him jokes, and spin all sorts of fascinating tales to cheer him up. Later, when Leo started middle school, the corner store closed down. He heard the old man had passed away, but he never knew if it was true. What was true was that his mother got cancer. With no money for treatment, she died. His father fell apart, becoming a hollow shell of a man who just shambled through his days. Leo grew more and more withdrawn and sensitive. He locked his heart away, wary of everyone. His dissatisfaction with his life fueled a desperate desire to escape his small town. He worked harder than anyone. Finally, through his own sheer will, he got into USC. If it hadn't been for the 4 happy years of college, he might still be that introverted little boy, hiding in his room and fantasizing about being the hero. When he thought about it, his life experience was so similar to Julianne's. No, it wasn't just similar. Julianne's life was a direct reflection of his own. Save the villainess. Was this what it meant? In that moment, it felt like something finally clicked into place for Leo. He shot up, staring at Julianne. What? What's with that look? Seeing his strange expression, Julianne sat up from the sand as well. Leo didn't answer her. Instead, he asked with a dead serious expression, Julianne, do you believe in destiny? Destiny? Julianne's lips curved into a cold smirk. Her voice was steely. At least, I don't believe my life will be this miserable forever. Julianne Hale, will make something of myself. Yes, you will. Leo scrambled to his feet, brushing the sand off his pants. He reached down and pulled Julianne up with him. He pointed a single finger to the sky, his voice ringing with ambition. We are going to make it. We will be a success. Julianne looked at him, slightly stunned. Leo didn't notice the change in her expression. After his declaration, he turned back to her. Julianne, from now on, no matter what trouble you run into, you have to tell me. Got it? Julianne stared into his eyes, hesitating before she spoke. Leo Miller, who are you really? Why are you being so good to me? Leo's mouth curved into a bright, confident smile. I'm the guy heaven sent to help you. Don't lie to me. I would never lie to you, Leo said, his tone earnest. As long as I'm here to help, you'll definitely make it big. The boy's words were like a powerful hurricane, instantly churning the once calm lake of the girl's heart, sending ripples spreading outwards that refused to subside. His bright eyes were dazzling, even more brilliant than the moonlight tonight. The girl tried to see through them, to understand the boy, but the harder she looked, the more enigmatic he became. And because of that, she found herself falling deeper. After a long moment, the girl finally spoke. Okay, like The Rock always says, be humble, be hungry, and always be the hardest worker in the room. I swore I'd make it big. Leo Miller's notes. They walked along the beach for a while, and by the time they left, it was nearly midnight. After they got in the car, Leo asked her, should I take you home? Julianne thought for a moment, then shook her head. I don't want to go back tonight. Leo turned to look at her. Then where do you want to go? Her father had lost money gambling, so he'd be in a foul mood. If she went back, she'd just get yelled at. And if she went to stay with her mom in the hospital room, her mom would start asking questions. She already hated being in the hospital. If she knew what was happening at home, she'd insist on checking out early. Thinking of this, Julianne sighed. I don't know where to go. After a few seconds of silence, she said jokingly, how about it? Can I crash on the couch at the great Leo Miller's place? Leo played along. I might dare to bring you home, but would you dare to stay? Aren't you afraid I'd have ulterior motives? What's there to be afraid of? Julianne lifted her chin, her voice full of bravado. If you tried anything, I'd just call the cops and have you arrested. Leo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You'd stay at my house and still call the cops on me? You have no conscience, do you? Julianne hummed, a sly smile playing on her lips. Leo started the car. All right, buckle up. Let's go. Where are we going? Julianne asked as she fastened her seatbelt. You're not actually taking me to your house, are you? No way. My parents are home. I don't want them getting the wrong idea. Then where are we going now? To get a room, obviously. A what? Leo took Julianne to a luxury hotel owned by Damon Sterling's family and booked her a king-sized room. The Miller family owned high-end hotels too, of course, but why book one of Sterling's? Because he didn't want his parents to know he was getting a hotel room with a girl. Explaining that would be way too much trouble. You only booked one room. The moment Julianne followed Leo into the room, she tensed up. Leo looked at her, confused. What? Should I have booked more? Booking one room is one thing, but why did you get one with a king bed? A blush crept up Julianne's fair cheeks. Leo scratched his head, even more baffled. If not a king bed, what? A room with two doubles. Her face was beet red. Of course you should have gotten two doubles. Leo shot back. Why would you need two beds if you're staying alone? Alone. Now, it was Julianne's turn to be dumbfounded. She stared blankly at Leo. Then where are you staying? I'm going home, obviously. Leo was exasperated. I have a perfectly good home to go back to. I'm not going to sleep in a hotel with you, am I? All right, that makes sense. Julianne immediately snapped back to reality, the blush vanishing from her face. Leo narrowed his eyes, studying her strangely. What was with that expression just now? Julianne shook her head quickly, stuttering, in nothing. Something's not right. Very not right. Leo squinted, leaning his face slowly toward hers. Don't tell me. You wanted me to stay with you. As his face loomed closer, Julianne's breathing hitched. She quickly turned away and pushed him back. Get over yourself. Now get out. With that, Julianne shoved Leo out of the room and slammed the door shut. What is with her? I booked the room, I pay for it, and she kicks me out. Leo shook his head, a half-amused, half-exasperated smile on his face, and headed for the elevator. Inside the hotel room, Julianne buried her head in the duvet like an ostrich, replaying the night's events in her mind. It felt like a dream. She didn't even know why she felt so safe, following a guy she'd only just met to a hotel. If Leo had wanted to stay tonight, would I have agreed? The question popped in her head, and she was so startled by her own thought that she shook her head frantically, trying to banish it. She decided to take a shower to cool down and clear her head. Walking into the bathroom, she saw her own flushed face in the mirror and couldn't help but laugh. She looked like a freshly boiled crab. Halfway through her shower, Julianne remembered something important. Her notebook was still in Leo's car. She quickly rinsed off the soap, turned off the water, and wrapped herself in a towel. Rushing out of the bathroom, she grabbed her phone and sent Leo a voice call. "What's up?" Leo was driving when his phone rang. Seeing it was Julianne, he answered. "Leo, have you already left? What do you think?" Leo sounded amused. "You want to stand guard outside your door? If I did that, you'd probably call me a creep again." Ahem. Julianne coughed awkwardly. My beat-up notebook. I think it's still in your car." Leo glanced at the notebook on the passenger seat. "I'm already pretty far. I'll bring it to you tomorrow." "Okay. All right, I'm driving. If there's nothing else, I'm going to hang up." "Wait, just a second. Is there something else?" "Drive safe." Yeah." Leo was taken aback by the gentle tone in her voice. She was so fierce a minute ago. Why is she so soft on the phone? "Okay, hanging up now. One more second." "What is it?" "Today. Thank you. I had a really good time," Julianne said, then quickly ended the call. The girl clutched her phone, staring blankly at their chat window. "Weirdo," Leo muttered to himself, looking at the abruptly ended call. He glanced again at the tattered notebook on the passenger seat, his thoughts drifting. "Did I start writing novels because I loved it?" he murmured, "or was it just about the money?" It had been so long, he could hardly remember anymore. When he got home, he took the notebook to his room, smoothed it out on his desk, and found a roll of tape. By the time Leo had finished taping Julianne's ruined notebook back together, it was past 4 a.m. The sky was already turning a fish-belly white. Dawn was less than half an hour away. Phew! After working all night, Leo leaned back in his chair and let out a long sigh. He'd thought taping the notebook together would be simple, but it had taken him the entire night. The notebook was practically confetti. He had painstakingly pieced the shredded pages together with tape, reattached the cover that had been split in two, and then used craft glue to paste the pages back into the binding one by one. Afraid of messing up the order, he'd read every single page to sequence them correctly. So, over the course of the night, he had essentially read Julianne's entire novel. In her story, Leo saw a reflection of his younger self. But he also saw a completely new Julianne, one totally different from the character he thought he knew. He didn't know why he'd put so much effort into restoring her notebook. Maybe it was because he'd once had a similar experience, hiding in his room to read a novel, only for his father to find it and rip it to shreds. He understood that pain, the gut-wrenching loss of something you cherished. Or maybe it was just guilt. After all, it was his words that had condemned her to such a miserable life. Looking at the patched-up, battered notebook, Leo muttered to himself, "Julianne Hale, I guess I owe you one." He put her notebook in a bag, tucked it into a drawer, and then headed to the bathroom for a quick shower before crashing into bed. When he finally woke up from the soft comfort of his massive bed, the sun was already setting. He checked his phone, 5:30 p.m. He'd slept through the entire day, and no one had even tried to wake him. When Leo went downstairs, his father, Charles Miller, was in the yard, sipping coffee and reading a newspaper. "Dad, where's Mom?" Leo asked as he walked over. "Your mother went for a spa day with her friends," Charles replied, then did a double take. "Hey, you're home, son," he said, surprised. "I thought you didn't come back last night." "No way," Leo said, half amused. "So you didn't even know I was here?" "Of course not. If I'd known, I would have had someone wake you for lunch." His father stood up and looked him over. "Don't tell me you slept in your room until now." Leo rubbed his still puffy eyes. "I went to bed pretty late last night." "Oh," Charles said, a sly grin spreading across his face as if he'd figured it all out. "Brought a girl home?" Leo's face flushed. "No, Dad, don't just say things like that. If you didn't bring a girl home, why were you up all night?" Charles said, sitting back down. "Dad, come on." Leo scratched his head awkwardly. "You're the head of the Miller family. Can't you be a little more dignified?" Charles laughed. "Listen to you, cheeky brat, trying to parent your old man now." After a few moments of friendly banter, Charles asked, "Are you hungry? I can have someone make you something." "It's fine," Leo said, shaking his head. "I'm heading out. I won't be home for dinner tonight." With that, he went back upstairs, grabbed the bag with Julianne's notebook, and headed for the underground garage. He looked around the garage, saw nothing but supercars, and turned right back around, returning to the yard. Charles saw him and asked, puzzled, "Weren't you leaving? Why are you back?" "Dad, do we have any normal cars in the garage?" "What kind of normal car? Like, something under 50 grand?" "No, the garage isn't a junkyard." Why would we keep a $50,000 car in there? Charles said calmly, then looked at his son with a bewildered expression. TSK, a $50,000 car is junk? Listening to his father's ridiculously out-of-touch statement, Leo was momentarily speechless. What do you need a cheap car for? Charles asked. I'm trying to be more low-key lately, Leo said. Driving a sports car everywhere is too flashy. Oh, I get it, Charles said, that sly grin returning. He pointed at Leo. You try and play the secret billionaire to pick up a girl, right? Wait until she scoffs at you, then hit her with the big reveal. That's my boy, always playing games. Dad, your imagination is running wild. Leo felt a headache coming on. I told you to stop reading those trashy web novels. Look what they've done to your brain. Ahem. Charles cleared his throat awkwardly. We really don't have a car like that. How about I give you some money and you can go buy one? Forget it, I'll just take. Leo's words trailed off as his eyes caught sight of a small minivan parked by the front gate. Is that minivan ours? That's the chef's van for grocery shopping. What are you thinking? Let the chef use my Koenigsegg to get groceries. Leo slapped the hypercar keys onto the table and walked towards a minivan. Watching the minivan drive off, Charles shook his head with a smile, murmuring to himself, that cheeky brat, just as mischievous as I was at his age. Sir, did we get robbed? The minivan is gone. No, Leo took it. Oh, the young master took it out for a spin. I'll just call for a grocery delivery today then. No need. You can take this car. Huh? This. Isn't this the young master's prize car? Just take it. Stop asking so many questions. Yes, sir. A text from his dad buzzed on Leo's phone. Good son, if you need money, just ask your dad. A smile touched Leo's lips. If he were his younger self, he would have been overjoyed to have a father like Charles. This harmonious family dynamic was exactly what he had dreamed of as a child. The reason Leo wanted a cheap car was because he was heading to the projects. He had already called the hotel front desk. Julianne had checked out early in the morning. Leo figured she must have gone home, which meant he had to go to the projects to find her. Driving a hypercar into the projects wasn't a good idea. He wasn't afraid of being targeted for driving something so flashy, but Julianne was another story. She lived there, and her father was a notorious gambling addict. If he showed up in a hypercar to see her, it could bring all sorts of trouble down on her. It was better to be safe. No need to flash his wealth. Behind the projects was a road called Market Street. Calling it a market was generous. It was really just 2 rows of vendor stalls and small shops. You wouldn't find any brand-name clothing stores, fancy restaurants, or well-stocked supermarkets here. All it offered were the daily necessities for the surrounding residents. When Leo was a kid, there had been a street just like this next to where he lived. That one small street held his entire childhood. Leo walked, looking around, until he suddenly stopped. Not far ahead, a young woman was enthusiastically hawking vegetables at a stall. A woman with graying temples sat beside the stall, watching her with a loving expression. Under the girl's energetic calls, customers quickly gathered. She expertly bagged the vegetables they wanted. Bagging, weighing, calculating the price, taking the money, making change, and finally handing the bag to the customer with a beautiful smile. The whole sequence was flawless, without a single wasted motion. If a customer paid with their phone, she could even skip the calculation and change-making steps. Leo stood in the distance, silently watching her work. In just a few minutes, Julianne had handled several customers. She was amazing. No matter how many people came at once, she managed everything in an orderly fashion, without a single mistake. Once she had a moment to breathe, Leo walked over to the stall. Julianne was counting the money in her fanny pack. What can I get for you? She asked without looking up. The carrots are really fresh today, and the potatoes are on sale. I'll take everything. Leo's voice made her pause. Hearing that familiar voice, Julianne froze, then shot her head up. How did you find me here? A smile she couldn't hide spread across her face. Heard you checked out early, so I drove over to your neighborhood to find you, Leo said, then greeted the older woman sitting beside her. Hello, ma'am. Hello, the old woman said, quickly standing up and taking Leo's hand. You must be Yuzu's friend? Yes, ma'am, Leo nodded. The old woman patted the back of his hand, smiling as she praised him. Good, very good. Such a handsome young man. Leo felt the old woman might have misunderstood something, but he didn't explain. Some things only get more complicated when you try to explain them. After a brief chat with her, Leo turned and pointed at the vegetables on the stall. How much is left here? I'll buy it all. Julianne shot him an exasperated look. Leo, I know you're rich, but can you please not mess around here? How am I messing around? Leo said, confused. I'm trying to help you. If you sell out early, your grandma can close up shop early, and you can go home early. It's a win-win, isn't it? Julianne rolled her eyes at him. You can only help Mrs. Gable this one time. Are you going to buy out her vegetables every single day? Now, Leo grinned confidently. I could just have my family's butler source our vegetables from her every day. Julianne just waved her hand impatiently. Go on, get out of here. Don't get in my way. Although Mrs. Gable didn't understand what Leo was saying, she smiled at him. Young man, I don't need your help. If you want to buy in bulk, you can go straight to the wholesale market. You'll get a better price. Leo immediately understood. Mrs. Gable didn't grow the vegetables. She was just a vendor. She bought them wholesale and sold them retail, making a tiny profit. It really didn't make sense for him to buy from her in bulk. No wonder Julianne had rolled her eyes at him. Leo quickly walked behind the stall. Mrs. Gable, Julianne, and I will help you sell. The old woman stood up immediately. Oh, I couldn't ask that of you. It's your first time visiting, and you're offering to help me sell vegetables? Don't worry about it. It's okay, ma'am. Let him do it. You just sit down, Julianne said with a smile, then turned to glare at Leo. Who said you could call me Yuzu? What's wrong with it? Can I? Leo grinned, deliberately provoking her. I'm going to say it. Yuzu, Julianne, Yuzu. You. Julianne clenched her fists, looking like she wanted to punch him, but just then a customer arrived. She shot him a fierce look with her almond-shaped eyes. After glaring at Leo, she turned back to the customer, her expression instantly softening as she quoted vegetable prices. This girl's a natural. She changes faces so fast. It's a shame she's not an actress, Leo thought to himself. Just then, Julian snapped at him. Hurry up and get a plastic bag. Don't you have eyes? Oh. Leo quickly pulled a plastic bag from under the counter and handed it to her. By evening, there weren't many people left buying groceries. After 6:30, the fresh produce stalls on Market Street began to pack up. Mrs. Gable's stall was nearly empty. She packed up the good-looking vegetables to store in a cooler for the next day, and kept the less-than-perfect ones for herself. While the two were busy, Mrs. Gable went to the small shop next door and bought them some snacks, drinks, a hot dog, and a packet of instant ramen. Young man, thank you for helping Yuzu sell vegetables with me. Here, have a drink and something to eat. Take a break. Thank you, Mrs. Gable, Leo said, smiling as he took the drink. He didn't recognize the brand. He took a sip. It tasted like artificially sweetened, colored water. For a moment, he felt like he was a kid again. Back then, a drink like this cost 50 cents. Every time he went to the old man's corner store to read, he'd buy an ice-cold one, sipping it while he flipped through comics and novels. Sometimes, when he had no money, the old man would treat him. The instant ramen, too. Whenever he was sad, or his parents were fighting again, the old man would give him a packet to crunch on. Looking at the familiar, cheap packaging of the ramen, a wave of inexplicable sadness washed over him. Julianne, chewing on her hot dog, saw Leo staring at the ramen packet without opening it. She thought a rich kid like him must be disgusted by such cheap food. If you're not hungry, give it to me, she said, reaching for it. Leo quickly hid the packet behind his back. This is for Mrs. Gable for me. Go away. Fine, don't give it to me then. Oomph. Mrs. Gable took a plastic bag and started filling it with fresh vegetables. Yuzu, she asked, why don't you bring your friend over to my place for dinner tonight? Julianne quickly waved her hands. No, please don't trouble yourself. I'll take my friend home to eat. All right then. Mrs. Gable handed Julianne the bag of fresh vegetables. Take these with you. Julianne waved her hands again. No, Mrs. Gable, you should keep these to sell tomorrow. I'll just take the wilted ones. Sell what? They'll be bad by tomorrow. Take them home and eat them fresh. Here, the old woman insisted, pushing the bag into Julianne's hands. Then she took out some bills from the fanny pack Julianne had been wearing, counted out $100, and gave it to her. You helped me sell so much today. Take this. Mrs. Gable, I haven't even paid you for the vegetables from yesterday. I really can't take this. You keep it. Take it. You helped me all day. As they were going back and forth, Leo secretly pulled a few $100 bills from his wallet and slipped them under the fanny pack. He then took the money from Mrs. Gable's hand and pressed it into Julianne's. All right, stop refusing. If she wants you to have it, just take it. There you go, Yuzu. See how sensible your friend is, Mrs. Gable said, smiling happily at Leo. What are you doing? Julianne hissed at Leo under her breath. She barely makes any money selling vegetables all day. Leo leaned in close to her ear and whispered, It's okay. I secretly slipped a few hundred under her fanny pack. Hearing this, Julianne reluctantly nodded and accepted the $100. Young man, don't go yet. Let me have a word with you, Mrs. Gable said, pulling Leo aside as they were about to leave. You and Yuzu are more than just friends, aren't you? Oh well, we're definitely close. Yuzu is a good girl. She's obedient, sensible, hardworking, and very ambitious. She just had the bad luck of getting a deadbeat for a father. That's why she's more sensitive, more insecure, and warier than other girls. She rarely trusts people. I watch her grow up, and I can count the number of friends she's had on one hand. I can tell you're a good kid, and I trust Yuzu's judgment. You have to. Mrs. Gable talked for a long time. At first, Leo was confused, but he soon realized she had completely misunderstood his relationship with Julianne. No, ma'am, Julianne and I aren't. Ma'am, what are you doing? Before Leo could finish his explanation, Mrs. Gable had already stuffed a wad of crumpled bills into his hand, a collection of small bills that probably added up to $50. It's your first time visiting, and I haven't been a good host. Take this and buy yourself something to eat. No, Mrs. Gable, I can't take this, I really can't. In a daze, Leo saw in the old woman a reflection of the kind corner store owner from his childhood. His eyes started to burn, and he subconsciously blurted out the words he'd always wanted to say to the old man. You've already taken such good care of me. How could I take your money? You have to take care of yourself and live a long, long life. The old woman seemed a little hard of hearing and didn't quite catch what he said, continuing to press the money on him. After a long struggle, Leo finally gave in. The wad of cash was now in his pocket. Just a little something from an old lady, Mrs. Gable said, holding his hand. Next time, have Yuzu bring you to my house. I'll cook for both of you. I've always thought of Yuzu as my own granddaughter. Seeing her with someone she can rely on makes me so happy. That girl has had a hard life. You have to be good to her. Yes, ma'am. Perhaps just to make the old woman happy, Leo didn't argue anymore. He just smiled and nodded. After saying goodbye, Leo left Market Street with Julianne. On the way, Julianne asked curiously, what did Mrs. Gable say to you just now? Leo smiled. Nothing much. Just told me some stories about you as a kid. Honestly, Mrs. Gable, Julianne said, shaking her head with a resigned smile. She's always telling people my embarrassing childhood stories. She looked at the dark apartment buildings lining Market Street and said wistfully, years ago, Mrs. Gable had a son, but he died in a construction accident. After that, she was all alone. She sells vegetables on Market Street to get by. When my grandma was alive, they were friends. She used to bring me here to play and help Mrs. Gable at her stall. After my grandma passed away, Mrs. Gable became like a real grandmother to me. Sometimes when my parents were fighting and there was no food at home, I'd run here crying, and she would cook for me. The more casually Julian spoke, the more Leo's heart ached. Everything she was describing was exactly what he had once gone through. Without realizing it, tears had welled up in his eyes, and he was lost in his memories. Why are you crying? Julianne's voice broke through his reverie. Snapping back to reality, Leo quickly wiped his eyes, trying to act tough. Don't be ridiculous. I'm not crying. All right, Julianne said, a small smile playing on her lips as she pulled a tissue from her pocket and handed it to him. Before, Julianne had thought all rich people were high and mighty, that they could never understand the struggles of the poor. When Leo had first transferred into her class and tried to use his status as the dean's son to pressure her during the orientation boot camp, she had thought he was just like the rest of them. But as she spent more time with him, she slowly discovered how special he was. He seemed different from other rich kids. How much money did you put under Mrs. Gable's fanny pack? Julianne asked. I don't know, it didn't count. 4 or 5 bills for sure. Leo pulled out the crumpled cash Mrs. Gable had given him. She gave me this when we were talking. Take it and give it back to her tomorrow. She gave you money too? That woman, honestly. Julianne looked at the cash, then thought for a moment. Forget it. She gave it to you, so you should keep it. Besides, you gave her money too, right? Leo looked at the crumpled bills, thought for a moment, then carefully folded them and tucked them into his wallet. Julianne sized him up. Why are you still following me? Aren't you going home? You told Mrs. Gable you were taking me home for dinner tonight, didn't you? Leo said with righteous indignation. Julianne was dumbfounded. I was just saying that. You actually took it seriously? A bright smile spread across Leo's face. I don't care. You said it, so I'm holding you to it. You're shameless, Julianne said, a laugh escaping her. She stifled her smile, rolled her eyes at him, and then suddenly asked, Do you eat pork? Leo blinked, then his smile grew even wider. He nodded enthusiastically. I do. Julianne led Leo to a butcher shop. A burly butcher with bulging biceps greeted her. Well, little Yuzu, got yourself a boyfriend. Julianne waved her hand dismissively, smiling. Big Mike, don't tease me. This is my classmate. Leo gave the man a polite smile. First time I've seen you bring a friend around. Need some pork? Half a pound of. Julianne started, then changed her mind. A pound of leg meat from the front, and a rack of ribs. You got it. The butcher expertly weighed out a pound of pork and a rack of ribs, chopping the ribs into smaller pieces and bagging them separately. He then pointed to a massive pig lung on the edge of his block. You like pork lung? It's on the house. I'm about to close up anyway. Oh wow. Thanks, Big Mike. Don't mention it. You got a friend over, gotta have a few extra dishes, right? Huh. The butcher laughed heartily and handed over the bags. Leo quickly reached out to take them from her. After buying the meat, Julianne picked up some spices for braising, and once she had everything for dinner, she led Leo home. She stuck a glance back at him, watching him trail behind her like a little assistant, carrying the groceries. Her red lips curved slightly, and a soft smile blossomed on her face. Julianne's home wasn't far from Market Street, just a 2 or 3 minute walk to her building. The apartments and the projects were all walk-ups with no elevators. The buildings were densely packed, which meant a lot of household trash. A foul smell hung in the air at the bottom of the stairwell. They walked through a dark, narrow hallway and up a worn-out flight of stairs. On the 5th floor, the door on the left, plastered with peeling advertisements, was Julianne's home. Screech. Thud. The old iron door groaned as it opened. Julianne went inside, changed her shoes, and found a pair of slippers for Leo. Sorry, the place is a bit of a mess. It's fine. After changing his shoes, Leo stepped inside. The apartment was small, 2 bedrooms, a living room, a kitchen, and a bathroom. The tightly packed buildings outside blocked most of the light, so the apartment was dim even during the day. It felt familiar, reminding him of the place he'd grown up in, and he felt a strange sense of comfort. Seeing Leo looking around, Julianne gave a self-deprecating smile. I'm afraid my humble home is a bit of shock for the great Leo Miller. Leo smiled back. With you in it, it's not humble at all. I'll take that as a compliment, she said, covering her mouth with her hand as she giggled, then took the groceries into the kitchen. A moment later, she came back out. She handed Leo a neatly folded stack of bills. I have 50 here. I'm paying you back a bit. Just keep a running tab of what I owe you. I'll pay you back little by little as I earn money from work. Leo glanced at the money in her hand. I'm in a good mood today. The money you borrowed from me before? You can forget about it. Julianne immediately became agitated. No, a debt is a debt. You have to take this back. Give me a break. Pay me back 50 at a time. How long is that going to take? Leo, push your hand away. You like writing, right? Just pay me back when you become a famous author and start earning royalties. A famous author? Royalties? Julianne repeated his words, a small smile on her face. All right then. When I earn my royalties, I'll pay you back what I owe. But it might take a while. It's fine, Leo said with a grin. I believe in you. With your talent, you'll be a famous author in no time. How would you know about my talent? The intelligent Julianne immediately caught the key phrase in his sentence. Did you sneak a peek at my novel last night? And where's my notebook? Did you bring it today? You're sharp, aren't you? Leo covered his face. I brought it. It's in my car. I'll give it to you when I leave. Praise for being smart. Julianne let out a small, proud humph and turned back to the kitchen. Leo followed her. Let me help you cook. Julianne waved him off. No need. The kitchen is small. You can wait in the living room. It's fine, I can help. Pork lung is a pain to clean. Leo rolled up his sleeves and started on the lung. Pork lung was one of the cheapest parts of the pig. A huge piece like this sold for only $5 or $10, and almost no one bought it, mainly because it was so dirty and a hassle to clean. You had to flush water through the windpipe, poke holes all over the lung with a toothpick, and then squeeze out all the sticky mucus and blood. It was a time-consuming and laborious process. Working from memory, Leo began cleaning the lung just as his mother used to. At first, Julianne had assumed his offer to help was just a polite gesture. In her mind, someone like Leo wouldn't just avoid helping in the kitchen. He'd probably barely ever set foot in one. He was a rich kid, after all. Weren't they all pampered, clueless about manual labor, and unable to tell wheat from chaff? How could he possibly handle something like this? But when she saw him expertly starting to clean the pork lung, her prejudice against him vanished. He really wasn't like other rich kids. Leo thought she was staring because she didn't trust him. Don't just watch me, he said. You do your thing. I won't mess it up. Well, thank you, Leo Miller, Julianne said in a playful, sing-song voice, as if talking to a child. Julianne was clearly a skilled cook. She deftly blanched and simmered the ribs while also finding time to chop meat and vegetables, prepare the ginger, garlic, and spices for braising the lung. Her movements were as smooth and natural as flowing water. By the time Leo had finished cleaning the lung, it was ready to be blanched and then braised. While the lung was cooking, Julianne had already stir-fried the pepper steak. Once the braised lung was done, she cooled it, sliced it thinly, and stir-fried it with ginger, garlic, and peppers. The last dish was sautéed bok choy. When all 3 dishes were done, the rib soup in the other pot was ready too. In just an hour, on a simple home stove, Julianne had prepared a 3-course meal with a soup. Only someone who had cooked before, like Leo, could truly appreciate her level of culinary skill. By the time Leo had set the soup on the table, Julianne had already dished out 2 bowls of rice. Thanks. Leo took the bowl and chopsticks, his eyes immediately locking onto the stir-fried lung. This stir-fried lung is so spicy and fragrant. It's amazing. The pepper steak is delicious too. The meat is so tender. The bok choy is so juicy. The ribs are cooked so perfectly, they just fall off the bone. The flavor is incredible. Having slept all day and eaten almost nothing in the afternoon, Leo was starving. The delicious home-cooked meal made his eyes light up. He dug in like a man possessed. Julianne watched him, looking like a ravenous wolf, and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. All right, it's all yours. No one's going to steal it. Slow down. If she hadn't seen him drive a luxury car, Julianne would have started to doubt whether he was actually rich. What kind of young master eats like he's never seen food before? The truth was, it had been a long time since Leo had eaten a real home-cooked meal. Before being transported into the book, he'd been a writer living in a rental apartment, eating whatever was available and making a single dish last for days. After arriving in this world as a young master of the Miller family, he never had to worry about food, but the meals prepared by a 5-star chef just didn't suit his taste. If he'd been allowed, he would have cooked for himself. Watching Leo devour the food, Julianne felt a sense of accomplishment she couldn't quite name. A chef's greatest pride is seeing someone enjoy their food and eat every last bite. As they were eating, the sound of the front door opening echoed through the apartment. Screech. Thud. Damn it. I can smell meat from outside, and you're telling me you have no money. Julianne's father's voice, thick with curses, preceded him into the room. Leo turned to look toward the door. It was the same man who had harassed Julianne for money at school. He smelled less of alcohol today, which probably meant he'd gambled away all his money and couldn't even afford a drink. The man froze when he saw Leo sitting at the dining table. What are you doing here? Why can't I be here? Leo turned, crossing his legs and looking at Julianne's father. You borrowed tens of thousands from me last time. Isn't it about time you paid me back with interest? Julianne's father immediately became defensive. That's bullshit. I only got 3,000 from you last time. When did it become tens of thousands? Money borrowed from me compounds at 20% interest per day. After all this time, it's easily tens of thousands. This is daylight robbery. Julianne's father's eyes darted around. Then he said, You have no proof. What makes you think I borrowed money from you? I don't even know you. Stop talking nonsense. Oh, plain dumb now, are we? Leo smirked, picked up his phone from the table, and played a recording. I only got 3,000 from you last time. There. Now I have proof, Leo said, waving his phone, a cold smile on his lips. If you think you can stiff me, I have 1,000 ways to make you disappear. You. Julianne's father stuttered in fear. He glared at his daughter. It was you, you damn jinx. You cozied up to this kid just to screw me over, didn't you? You bastard, I should have just. Crash. Before he could finish, Leo had snatched an empty rice bowl from the table and smashed it over the man's head. The bowl shattered on the floor. Just yesterday, Julianne had cracked the back of his head with a thermos. The wound had just scabbed over. Now his forehead was split open by a bowl, and fresh blood streamed down his face. Leo stood up and walked over to the man, looking down at him with utter contempt. Taking out on your own kid is all you're good for. You call yourself a father. I made her. How I act as a father is none of your damn business, the man snarled, balling his fist and swinging at Leo's face. Leo was ready for him. The moment he saw the man's arm move, he shot out his leg and kicked him squarely in the shin. Thud. The man's punch went wide, and he collapsed to his knees. You like to get physical. Weren't you so tough a second ago? A gambling addict with a poor diet and a drinking problem was no match for a strong young man. After just 2 kicks from Leo, the man was clutching his stomach, unable to speak through the pain. Cough, cough. I'm calling the police. I'm going to have you locked up, you psycho. Oh, Leo shrugged, unconcerned. Go ahead. You want me to call for you? Leo lifted his leg to kick him again, but Julianne stopped him. Don't. Your life is worth more than his. It's not worth going to jail for trash like him. Even though Julianne dreamed of her deadbeat father dropping dead, she couldn't let it be at Leo's hands. She didn't want an innocent person like him to get caught up in her mess. Leo pointed a finger at the man on the floor. You hear that? Even now, your daughter is trying to stick up for you, while you're still thinking about selling her. Are you even human? Cough. Cough. The man tried to say something, but could only cough, glaring at Leo with pure hatred. What are you looking at? Slap. Leo didn't hesitate, delivering a hard slap across the man's face. The sound echoed through the room. It was a vicious blow, meant to hurt. This is a world inside a book anyway, he thought. And I have the status of a top-tier rich kid. What do I have to be afraid of? Bang, bang, bang. Open the door. You motherfucker, Trevor Hale. If you don't pay up today, I'm burning your damn house down. I saw you go in. Don't try to hide. Open the fucking door. Just as Leo landed the slap, a violent pounding erupted at the door, accompanied by several menacing voices. Oh no, it's the debt collectors who hurt my mom. Julianne grabbed Leo's arm, her voice tense. I'll handle this. You go hide. I'm not the kind of coward who hides behind a woman. Leo glanced down at Julianne's father, who was lying on the floor like a sack of garbage, and sneered. These are the guys who put your mom in the hospital. Yes. Julianne saw the look on Leo's face and asked nervously, what is it? It's simple. An eye for an eye. Leo walked into the kitchen, grabbed the cleaver Julianne had been using, and strode toward the front door. Debt collectors? He'd been through this before. He remembered when he was barely 10 years old. His father wasn't home, and he watched as a group of collectors cornered his mother. Pushed to the brink, he'd run to the kitchen, grabbed the heavy, sharpened bone cleaver with both hands, and charged out, swinging wildly. He'd left a gash in one man's leg, so deep you could see the bone. Another one tried to grab the cleaver and nearly lost his fingers. His sheer ferocity had scared them all off. That was the night he completely broke with his father. He hadn't spoken a word to him since, not even after his mother died. He wasn't afraid then, so why would he be now? Click. The moment Leo threw the door open, the shouting stopped. The thugs standing outside stared, dumbfounded at the sight of Leo standing there, cleaver in hand. One of them, a blonde punk, glanced at the apartment number to make sure they were in the right place, then asked, Isn't this Trevor Hale's place? Who the hell are you? You mean him? Leo pointed with the cleaver at the man, lying on the floor like a dead dog. The thugs looked at the prone form of Trevor Hale and the puddle of blood on the floor next to him. Blood from the bowl Leo had smashed on his head. Taking in the scene, their eyes flickered back to the sharp cleaver in Leo's hand. They thought they had walked in on a murder. A chill ran down their spines, and their bravado evaporated. Hey man, looks like you're in the same line of work as us. So, you go ahead and collect first. We'll come back in a couple of days. With that, they turned to run. Hey, don't go. Let's have a little chat. Leo wasn't about to let them get away. He grabbed them and dragged them inside. The moment the door clicked shut, a wicked smile spread across his face. The apartment filled with screams that sounded like pigs being slaughtered. The sounds were agonizing, helpless, and pitiful. Just from listening, you knew they were getting the beating of their lives. The blood-curdling screams from Julianne's apartment quickly drew the attention of the neighbors. Knowing that Trevor Hale was often harassed by debt collectors, they assumed it was happening again, and a kind-hearted neighbor called the police. By the time the police arrived, Leo had already dealt with the collectors. Wait, let me get this straight, one of the officers said, trying to process the scene. You're saying that you two were eating dinner when this man, Trevor Hale, and these debt collectors all burst into the apartment together. Then he fought them all, a bloody battle right here in the room, and it was over so fast you two didn't even have a chance to help before they were all on the ground? That's right. It's the gospel truth, Leo said, his face a mask of calm as he recounted the ridiculous story. The officer looked from the groaning thugs on the floor to the terrified Trevor Hale, then back at Leo, his expression one of pure disbelief. It's true, officer. I can vouch for him. Julianne raised her hand innocently, her voice full of conviction. The battle was intense. My dad had the upper hand at first, but then someone snuck up on him with a bowl, and that's when he went down. The whole thing lasted less than 2 minutes. Leo and I were just sitting at the table, and it was over before we could even stand up. The officer looked at Leo and Julianne, then down at the dazed Trevor Hale, and finally at the bruised and battered debt collectors. Is what they're saying true? The beaten thugs all started talking at once. Yeah, that's right. It's true, it's true. Please, officer, just take us away. We'll confess. We confess. The 4 responding officers huddled together. What do we do with this? This is a bit much, isn't it? Take them all down to the station for now. Sounds good to me. After a quick discussion, they reached a consensus. The lead officer addressed the room. All right, all of you, you're coming with us. Hey, Leo said, pulling one of the officers aside. Officer, my friend Julianne, and I didn't do anything. Do we have to go to the station too? It's procedure. Whether you were involved or not, you need to come with us to give a statement. I'm the heir to the Miller Group, Leo Miller. I know your chief. How about you give him a call? I don't care if you're the heir to this or that. Wait, what did you say? You know our chief. I do. If you don't believe me, give him a call and ask. Wait here. The officer took out his phone, walked out of the apartment with a skeptical look on his face. A minute later, he came back inside and said to his colleagues, everyone but these two, take them all in. He pointed at Leo and Julianne. A few moments later, the police left with Trevor Hale and the debt collectors. What did you just say to the police? Julianne asked, her face a picture of astonishment. Why aren't they arresting us? A confident smile spread across Leo's face. Who am I? I'm Leo Miller. A little pull like this is nothing. You're amazing, Julianne said, giving him a thumbs up. All right, Leo said. Let's get back to dinner. You really are a strange one. You just got into a fight, and you still have an appetite. Julianne looked at him, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. You eat. I'll clean up this mess. I'll help you. No, you said it yourself. You're the great Leo Miller, Julianne said, half joking. How could a young master possibly do his own cleaning? I'll handle it. With that, she pushed Leo back down into his seat, then quickly grabbed a broom and mop and cleaned up the room. As she cleaned, Julianne hummed a cheerful little tune. She looked happy, and why wouldn't she be? Leo had taught her deadbeat dad a lesson and taken care of the thugs who had hurt her mother. After she finished, Leo waited for her to sit down before they continued eating. The little interruption hadn't affected his appetite in the slightest. He hadn't eaten all day. After all, do you want me to heat up the food? Julianne asked. Leo waved his hand. It's fine. Let's just eat it like this. It's so hot out. Eating it cold won't hurt. I've eaten plenty of cold food before. Ugh. Julianne covered her mouth and giggled. What are you laughing at? You're a surprisingly down-to-earth, rich kid. You bet I am, babe, Leo said, patting his chest. I'm telling you, you won't find another rich kid in Ethelberg City as down-to-earth as me. How are you so good at fighting? Julianne asked, sitting back down. Leo thought for a moment. I'm a rich kid. It's perfectly reasonable for me to learn some self-defense and martial arts, right? It is not reasonable at all. Julianne pouted. Leo Miller, how many more secrets are you hiding from me? What secrets could I have? Leo shrugged. I'm just a normal, ordinary young master. Julianne stared into his eyes. I don't believe you. You're definitely hiding something from me. Seeing that she was getting serious about his identity, Leo quickly changed the subject. Stop talking nonsense. The food is going to get really cold if we don't eat. If you won't tell me, I'll find out on my own. Julianne thought to herself. The rib soup seems a little cold. Let me heat it up for you. It's really fine. Let's just eat. Leo lowered his head and continued to wolf down his food. Julianne watched him silently, a smile unconsciously gracing her lips. She probably hadn't even realized that since meeting Leo, she had started to smile a lot more. After dinner, Julianne walked Leo downstairs to get her notebook. Why didn't you drive your fancy car here? What? You're looking down on me because I drove a minivan. Ugh. Julianne burst out laughing. I wouldn't look down on you even if you rode a bicycle. Good to know you have some conscience. I didn't repair your notebook for nothing. Leo reached into the van and pulled out the tote bag containing her notebook. You. Julianne took the notebook, covered in transparent tape, out of the bag, and her eyes instantly reddened. This is... She looked up, her beautiful eyes shimmering with tears. You fixed this for me. Of course I did. I stayed up all night fixing it for you. Are you moved? Are you? Leo tilted his head up, his tone practically begging for praise. Wah. Hey, you're so moved you're crying. Move, my ass. Who told you to take my novel back together so ugly? Wah. What the hell? You're complaining that it's ugly. Leo's eyes widened. If I'd known, I wouldn't have helped you. No good deed goes unpunished. Wah. Come a little closer. Julianne sobbed, covering her eyes with one hand while beckoning to Leo with the other. What? What do you want? Leo thought she was about to lash out in anger and punch him. He was a little scared, but he cautiously edged closer. Swoosh there in the dim light of the old building's entryway, in front of the minivan, the crying girl threw her arms around the boy in front of her. Chief Logan, what do we do with these guys? I'll come down and interrogate them myself in a bit. Yes, sir. After the door closed, Logan muttered to himself, that Leo Miller. He really knows how to make trouble for me. On the drive back in the minivan, Leo's mind was replaying the hug. They had been standing so close, and she had suddenly just hugged him. In that instant, his entire brain went blank. He just stood there like a block of wood, letting her bury her face in his chest and cry. He'd been single his entire life. This was the first time a girl had ever initiated a hug. And yeah, as a romance author with 2.5 years of experience, Leo had never actually been in a relationship. The feeling of being hugged by a girl, it was so special. It was a sensation he had never experienced before, something completely new. It was a strange and wonderful feeling that even he, a writer of love stories, couldn't possibly put into words. He reached up and touched the spot on his chest where her tears had soaked his shirt. It was still damp, warm, and moist to the touch. He couldn't remember how long she had cried in his arms, only that his heart had been pounding. It was still pounding now. Thump, 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 thump. The car was silent, and he could hear his own heartbeat clearly. The more he replayed what had just happened, the faster his heart beat. Son, you're home. Why aren't you getting out of the car? Why? Lost in thought, Leo was startled by his father's face suddenly appearing at the car window. Charles, in turn, was startled by Leo's shriek and let out a yelp of his own. Dad, you can't just pop up like that in the middle of the night. You scared me. Leo got out of the car and slung an arm over Charles's shoulders as they walked toward the villa. You know what they say? You can scare a person to death like that. I saw your car parked out front for a while, and you weren't getting out. I was worried, so I came to check on you. Thanks for the concern, Dad. Your son is doing just fine. Don't mention it, son. Wait, why is your face all flushed? Were you doing something naughty in the car? Once inside, Charles immediately noticed Leo's strange complexion. Leo tensed up. No. What? What could I possibly be doing in the car? Really? Charles stared into his eyes. Then why are you so nervous? I'm not nervous. Leo waved his hand dismissively. Dad, it's late. You should go up and get some sleep. With that, Leo started pushing his father's shoulders toward the elevator. Don't just rush me off, Charles said as he was being pushed. You should get some sleep too. Staying up all night isn't good for your, vitality. Leo's face flushed red. Dad, I'm an adult. You don't need to teach me about this stuff. You're right. You're the one kid I never have to worry about. Charles nodded and reached out to pat Leo's shoulder, but his hand landed on the damp patch of tears. Why is your shirt wet? I was drinking water while driving and spilled it, Leo said, making up a quick excuse. He gave Charles no chance to ask more questions and immediately pressed the button for his parents' floor. You should get to bed. You're acting so jumpy tonight, you brat. Hey. Before Charles could finish, the elevator doors had already closed. Leo looked up at the ascending elevator and let out a sigh of relief. The first thing Charles did when he got back to his room was to share his intel with his wife, Michelle. Honey, I think our son went out with a girl tonight. Really? Our son is finally showing some interest. I'm serious. I saw him just sitting in the car, staring into space with his face all red. And his clothes had this scent on them that wasn't his. If it's not a new relationship, what else could it be? He wouldn't be visiting those kind of places, would he? If that kid dares to do that, he's no son of mine. Our son is finally growing up. He just started college and already has a girlfriend. Here's what you do. Add a few zeros to his allowance. It'll make it easier for him to take the girl out. Good point, Charles said, nodding as he leaned against the headboard. But then he stroked his chin, looking puzzled. But I felt his shirt earlier, on his chest. It was wet. I don't know what that was about. Could it be? Michelle's eyes suddenly lit up. Could it be that? The two looked at each other and shared a knowing smile, leaving the thought unspoken. But one thing was certain. Their minds had gone to a very different place. After Leo left, Julianne went to the hospital to bring her mother dinner, as usual, then went home to shower and sleep. But lying in bed, she tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. Her mind kept replaying the image of her hugging Leo downstairs. She didn't even know why she'd suddenly hugged him and buried her face in his chest and cried, soaking his shirt. When he left, she had clearly seen the large wet patch on his shirt and his slightly bewildered expression. He looked silly, but also incredibly handsome. Julianne couldn't help but laugh. Thinking about it made her face burn. After wrestling with her sheets for a while, still unable to sleep, Julianne turned on her small bedside lamp, sat up, and took out the repaired notebook from her drawer. Even though Leo had clearly tried his best to tape the shredded pages back together, his clumsy hands had made the notebook look ugly. But what did that matter? The fact that he had taken the initiative to repair it and bring it back to her was touching enough. Looking at the ugly notebook, Julianne laughed again. After flipping through a few pages, she picked up her phone and opened her chat with Leo. Their last message was from the brief voice call the night before. After a few seconds of thought, she typed into the chat box, Leo, how did you find my house yesterday? A moment after she sent the message, Leo replied, "Your home address is in the school's student directory. Besides, for someone like me, the great Leo Miller, finding someone in Ethelberg City is a piece of cake." Leo had just gotten out of the shower when he saw Julianne's message. Seeing that she was getting suspicious, he quickly came up with an excuse. After Leo's message was sent, it took a while for Julianne to reply. "Julianne, all right, I get it, you're amazing, Leo Miller." In reality, Julianne had seen Leo's message immediately, but she didn't reply right away. She deliberately waited, to make it seem like she was busy and not just eagerly waiting for his text. Her caution was completely unnecessary. Even if she had replied instantly, Leo wouldn't have thought anything of it. A guy who'd never been in a relationship wouldn't pick up on such subtleties. Leo looked at her text, and he could practically imagine her defiant expression and sassy tone through the screen. He thought for a moment and replied, "Is there anything else? If not, this young master is going to sleep." "Julianne, no, you're not allowed to sleep. You have to chat with me for a bit. Hurry up and chat with me." Julianne's reply was instant this time. She was genuinely afraid Leo would fall asleep, and she'd have no one to talk to. The truth was, Leo couldn't sleep either, but he deliberately typed, "No time. This young master needs his sleep." "Julianne, nope. You made my notebook so ugly, I haven't gotten even with you for that yet. You're not allowed to sleep." "Leo, do you have a conscience? I helped you so much, and now you're trying to blackmail me." "Julianne, chat with me for a bit, and I won't blackmail you." "Leo, about what?" "Julianne, I don't know." The chat went silent for a moment. Leo didn't know how to reply to that. After a while, Julianne sent another message. "Forget it. You can go to sleep. I won't bother you." Leo stared at the message, 3 large question marks appearing over his head. One second, she's demanding a chat with her. The next, she's calling it off. Is she messing with me? Women are such strange, incomprehensible creatures. Leo sent, "Fine, going to sleep." Then he put his phone down, turned off the light, and tried to sleep. Staring at her phone screen, Julianne's eyes widened when she saw Leo's blunt reply. She muttered under her breath, "You dense idiot. Can't you think of topic yourself? Why is sleeping all you know how to do? Haven't you slept in a century? Moron." She clenched her little fist and tapped it gently against Leo's profile picture on the screen, as if she could punch him through the phone. In doing so, she accidentally tapped the like button on his last message, and she panicked, quickly unliking it as if she'd been caught doing something wrong. Leo had just put his phone down and was starting to feel drowsy when it vibrated. He picked it up, saw nothing new, and put it down again. Drowsiness was creeping back when another message from Julianne came through. "Are you asleep?" Leo squinted and replied, "What else do you want?" "Julianne, today, thank you." "Leo, you're welcome. I'm really going to sleep now. If there's nothing else, please stop bothering me." Julianne had already typed out "good night" and was about to send it, but when she saw Leo's boneheaded reply, she deleted it and sent a new one. "Fine, sleep. Sleep yourself to death, you pig." What is with her? Leo muttered to himself, looking at her message before closing his eyes to sleep again. Except, he couldn't sleep anymore. He picked up his phone, looked at her last message again, and said to himself, "That wretched villainess. She's deliberately messaging me to mess up my sleep schedule. Her intentions are truly malicious." Drowsiness doesn't just disappear. It only transfers from one person to another. After sending her last message, Julianne suddenly felt sleepy. She bundled up her blanket, hugged it tightly, and drifted off into a sweet dream. "Son, did you not sleep well last night? Your dark circles are so heavy," his mother, Michelle, asked with concern as he came down for breakfast. "Last night, staying up a little late is normal. When I was chasing your mother, I used to stay up all night writing her love letters." His father interjected before Leo could explain. Leo looked at his father, stunned. He didn't understand the connection between him staying up late and his father writing love letters. But he asked anyway, "Dad, you, of all people, wrote love letters?" "Hey, what's that supposed to mean?" Charles tossed his hair back confidently. "Brat, don't just look at your old man now that he's older and putting on weight. Back in my day, I was the most handsome guy for miles around." Right." Leo looked his father up and down and gave a dismissive nod. "You don't believe me, do you, Brat?" Charles slicked his hair back with his hand and pointed at Leo. "When your dad was in college, they called me the Ryan Reynolds of USC, the absolute cream of the crop. You, on the other hand, came out looking like a lump of... You didn't inherit any of my good looks at all." "What? You're saying I'm not handsome?" Leo pointed to his own face, then turned to his mother. "Mom, Dad joking, right? There's no way he was more handsome than me." "Your father really was very handsome back then," Michelle said. "He had a lot of girls chasing him." "You hear that, Brat?" Charles grinned. "Your old man was a master of romance back in the day. If you ever need advice on chasing girls, just ask me. Guaranteed success. Uft. Leo scoffed, raising a hand dismissively. I don't believe you. He picked up a glass of warm milk from the table and took a sip. You don't believe me, huh? Charles pointed at Leo. Don't you come crying to me for help with girls in the future. I guarantee I won't. Leo nodded, picking up his utensils and starting to eat. He also pulled out his phone to scroll through some videos. The moment he unlocked his phone, he froze. Dad, why did you transfer me more money? Charles smiled. You're dating someone now, so you'll need a bigger allowance. Think of it as a romance fund. Huh. Hearing this, it finally clicked for Leo. His parents had misunderstood and thought he had a girlfriend. He quickly explained, Mom, Dad, you got it all wrong. I'm not dating anyone. Not dating anyone. Charles frowned. Then why did you come home so late last night? I'm an adult. What's wrong with coming home a little late? Leo didn't want to drag Julianne into it, so he told a little white lie. Michelle pressed on. Then why did your dad say your face was all flushed and that you smelled like perfume? Leo put on a sheepish look. Mom, to be honest, I couldn't resist the temptation last night. I went with some friends to check out a strip club. It's only natural to come out of a place like that a bit flushed and smelling like perfume, right? Leo was getting good at lying on the spot, not even blushing as the words left his mouth. You brat. I thought you were courting a girl, but you went to a strip club instead? It seems I've given you too much money and too much freedom. Charles's face darkened with anger. He raised his hand and said to the butler, Go and freeze the young master's accounts. Hey, wait, Dad. Shut up. Charles cut off any chance for Leo to explain, pointing a finger at his nose. For the next week, you can fend for yourself at school. I'm not giving you a single cent. With that, Charles flicked his sleeve and stormed upstairs. Leo was stunned by his father's sudden outburst. He turned to his mother. Mom, why does Dad have such a strong reaction to places like that? Michelle lowered her voice. Because your father has a deep regret. When he was in college, there was this girl, his dream girl, that he could never win over. Huh? Leo asked, completely bewildered. And what does that have to do with me going to a strip club? Michelle continued to explain. The dream girl your dad was chasing back then. She chose to become an escort rather than be with him. It became the one great shame on his record as a master of romance. So, for his entire life, he's hated those kinds of places and the women who work in them. In our family, you can date as many girls as you want, but you are absolutely forbidden from getting involved with women from that world. Remember that, son. What the hell? That's insane. After hearing the ridiculous explanation, Leo's jaw nearly hit the floor. He checked his phone. Sure enough, his accounts were frozen. He couldn't transfer any money. He was filled with regret. If he'd known this would happen, he would have just told them he'd gone to the projects to see Julianne. Well, at least it was only a week without money. Not a huge deal, and he still had some cash in his wallet. Michelle patted his shoulder comfortingly. Don't be too upset, son. Just hold out for a few days. Your father will cool down.